As Chairman Pro Tem of the Wright County Planning Commission, I call the January 11, 2024 meeting to order. First order of business is election of chair. Do I have any nominations for
I'll
chair?
nominate Dan Moll.
We have a nomination for Dan Mall. Is there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor of Dan Mall as chair, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Chairman, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Barry. Next on our agenda tonight is to elect a vice chair for 2024. Do I have any nominations?
Nominate Ken Felger.
Do I have any other nominations? Do I have any other nominations? If not, all those in favor of Ken Felger as vice chair signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda is to set the 2024 meeting calendar, dates, and time. I think everybody has been able to pre-look at the calendar that's been submitted by staff. And then, is there any other time okay, or what are we thinking there? It's been brought up to change the time from May 1st to November 1st to 6:30, and then 6:30 in the wintertime and 7:30 in the summer. So from May 1st to November 1st would be 7:30 meeting time, and from the 1st of November to the 1st of May in the wintertime would be 6:30 PM. Does that work for everyone?
I love that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay with that?
Yep.
Ken?
You okay with that?
I'll be here.
Okay.
All right.
That's the most important
So
thing.
the alternate time for the winter months was 6:30?
Yes. Can I have a motion to approve?
One question. The July meeting, that does not coincide with the fair, is that correct? I know last year it came at the same time as the Wright County Fair, and a lot of people had difficulty getting to this meeting. Do we know if that's, do we know when the fair is, Cheryl?
Just one second, Greg's looking it up.
Okay.
24 to 28. Does not conflict with the fair. The fair's the next week.
Okay, good, thanks. Then I'm okay with the calendar.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the calendar and times?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have
Second that, Mr. Chair.
motion made and seconded? Is there any discussion? Any discussion? If no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then there's for the record, the per diem has been set by the Wright County Board for this board for meetings is at $120, and the site inspections will be $70 for the site inspections. So that doesn't need a vote. I guess, any discussion here at the board? Any questions?
I'm good with it.
If not, we'll move on. First on the agenda tonight is a State Development Corporation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, sorry about that. Has everybody been able to look through the minutes from the December 14th, 23 minutes? And do I have a motion to approve as presented?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? There's no other discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Barry?
Yeah, now for the estate development, item number one. Just one second here, I gotta get back to my presentation here. Hearing from the township, the applicant is still working on the revisions to the concept plan for the plan unit development, and the township hasn't seen it or had a chance to rule on it, so they have requested continuation to the February 8th meeting. Sounds like they're already on the calendar for the township, so hopefully their revisions get completed and they get on that meeting. So they have requested continuation to February 8th.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to continue this matter, Estate Development Corporation, to February 8th at the applicant's request.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Number 2 on the agenda tonight is John Terp. Do you want to come up to the podium, please, and give your name for the record, and we will get started?
Great, thank you. My name's Christine Hallett. You want my address?
You can,
24481 Logan Avenue, Lakeville, Minnesota.
okay? And we'll let Barry give us a highlight, and then we'll come
Okay,
back to you. Okay?
thanks. Hallett, Hallet. Thank you.
Okay, Barry, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is a 39.99 acre piece on County Road 17 Southeast in Franklin Township, south of Delano. It is currently zoned general agriculture and is in the land use plan for rural residential. The request today is for a land alteration of approximately 4,400 cubic yards to construct an ATV track and motocross track and a berm along County Road 17, and which is roughly 1,800 cubic yards, and then a pad for a shed that is currently under construction at 2,600 yards. The land alteration portion is an after the fact, primarily due to the track that was constructed. The permit itself it's assumed that there's gonna be land alteration with that, but because of the nature of what they gave us as part of their plans, which I will display here in a minute, there was material taken from one spot, brought to another, so it's kind of, material was used in both locations, so we included the building pad as part of the overall land alteration. Had it been just the building, we wouldn't have had this request before the commission, we just would have approved it as part of the construction practice. But because material was moved around amongst the 2 different pieces, we did include that as part of the overall plan. So as mentioned, this is for a track, the primary portion of it with the plan presented showing approximate cubic yard totals in specific areas and where the cubic yards were being distributed throughout that track. We did receive comment from Franklin Township indicating that they have tabled the item pending an environmental impact study if required by the county. We did receive 6 other neighbor responses requesting either denial of the request due to concerns of noise with the end use and also environmental concerns. That is all I got.
All right, thank you.
Those responses are in your packet, by the way.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Definitely. So I'm a contractor, and I'm the co-owner of J.C. Hallett Construction. We are the general contractor and the excavators on the site. We did begin working and moving dirt in this area in anticipation of an ATV track and a shed pad. The area where the shed pad is, where you see the 2,600 up there, that was about 4 feet low, so it did require a significant amount of dirt moved over there. The rest of the field, we did a lot of sculpting of multiple jumps and hills. There's a tree area that you can see on the diagram that's sort of shaded in blue, and it's hard to tell. It says 1,800. We excavated that pond for a number of reasons, one of which was to build the berm, and you'll see a couple other hills highlighted in blue. That all came from that pond. The other pond on the area near the road, that's the only protected wetland in the area per Minnesota PCA. And we did not touch that one. So the one we did excavate was, like I said, for a couple of purposes. We've also had sculpted the area so that the drainage and any runoff goes to that pond. In addition, there's wood chips placed on the site to help with erosion and dust. We're irrigating the site. The owner is actually installing an entire irrigation system solely for the purpose of irrigating the track to minimize any dust, and the wood chips that are covering the entire site or will be covering the entire site will help that because it'll retain that moisture. The berm we built will help with noise. There'll be trees planted on top of it that will block any view except maybe the tallest hill from the road. And also prevents any drainage from going out further where it doesn't need into the road or into the, there's a path out there. Let's see. So we applied for the initial, there's some misunderstanding that we didn't have a permit to do this, and I just want to clarify. We did apply for a permit for the building and the septic system on October 3rd. After a 4-week review, the Planning and Zoning Department did approve that. The reason this came up is because on the 22nd of November, we filed some design changes on both the septic system and the shed. And I heard on December 1st, I heard from Scott Deckard. He said it had come to his attention that more dirt than he realized had been moved. And because of that, he wanted to table the approval and have us apply for a conditional use permit. So I came in and I spoke with Josh and Ryan, and we talked through it. They suggested I come up with this map so we could be very specific about what was moved and where. So hopefully this does explain all of that pretty well. Following the submission of the conditional use permit application on December 6th, our septic system permit was approved. We've completed that. We've had people from planning and zoning, specifically environmental services, I believe, out to approve the septic system. There's no concerns about that. So for the most part, everything has gone as planned and exactly the way the county would want us to do it or wanted us to do it. It is on us that we did not apply for the conditional use permit for moving as much dirt as we moved. We just haven't had this come up before, but as soon as we became aware of it, we have done everything to rectify it. Today we received a call from, the name is Matt King from Minnesota PCA, based on an anonymous complaint. He wanted to come and visit our site. We spent 2 hours with him on site. We walked the entire job area. He did come up with a couple of items that need to be cleaned up. He wants us to install bio-roll along the berm between the berm and the highway. He wants us to blow some straw in some areas where he felt the dirt wasn't quite stable enough yet. All of which, everything he suggested, they were very minor, and they'll all be taken care of on Tuesday before we even get his report. Now, he said that his report would come next week sometime, and we'll share it with you as soon as we get it. He can't tell us exactly what he's going to rule because he has a group of people he works with and they all need to vote on it. But he anticipates that this will be approved after the fact, which means we will pay more than we normally pay because it's a fine because we didn't do it up front, and that's fine, we accept that. But that he anticipates no reason why we wouldn't be able to move on based on what he sees as, a professional in the field of pollution control. I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Okay.
Whatever you got.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I do have a quick question.
Sure.
So in your meeting with the MPCA, did he reference that this would be part of an MPDES permit requirement and a stormwater pollution prevention plan?
He didn't mention anything like that, and John, actually, the other owner is here. Can he speak to your specific questions? Have him come up. He is the one that met with them today, so he can answer specific questions.
Hi, my name is John Hallett. I'm co-owner of J.C. Hallett Construction, and I reside at the same residence as my wife, Chrissy. I did a 2-hour walkthrough with him today, and as she described, number one, he said there is no need to do any type of environmental impact study on the site. That would be unusual for a site this size. There's no discharge into any protected wetlands, waterways, rivers, streams, or anything like that. He is not recommending that at all. And yes, we're not getting a permit from him. He's going to give us it's technically a fine, but it's, and we weren't aware of this. If you disturb more than an acre of land anywhere in the state of Minnesota, you have to have a PCA permit, which
Yeah.
we didn't. I've never encountered that in 30 some years of doing residential. We do acreage sites all the time. Anyway, now that it's come to light, we're working with them. We already have a contractor hired for Tuesday to take care of the areas we discussed with him. He has no intentions of even coming back to the site. We're going to email him photos of the work that's done, and hopefully we resolve this right away.
Yeah, so that acre of disturbance, that is the MPDES permit. That is
Yes.
what is
Okay.
required. So yeah, MPCA would require an NPDES permit with disturbance of more than an acre. So that's what they'll be looking at, is getting an after-the-fact NPDES permit, which usually includes some type of stormwater prevention plan.
Yeah, and he said because the majority of our site is agricultural, like everything to the north is a plowed field, some discharge goes to that property line, but we're 40 feet from the property line with our track. So we have a buffer, a grass buffer there of 40 feet. No discharge is gonna leave the site. It's not even gonna be dirt anymore, it's gonna be grass. It's gonna be a grass trail. So there'll be less discharge than there was when it was a farmed field, by far. And he's aware of that, and he was on board, and the meeting went great today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions for us?
I'm going to open it up to the public.
Sure.
So if you just want to have a seat,
Yep.
and then after the public comment is done, then I'll ask you to come back up and have any rebuttals that you might want to answer. So if you want to make notes or whatever you'd like to do. All right, is there anyone from the public that would like to come up? No, I'd like to remind the public that we have a large meeting tonight and things could go late. So I'm going to ask everybody to try to hold their comments to about 3 minutes. We have a stop clock, one up there and one up there, so you can kind of watch where you're at in your comments. So I guess we'll start out, gentleman right here first, and try to hold it to 3 minutes. And
Thank you. My name-
Please give your name.
I understand. Thanks. My name is Rich Ostland. My wife Mary is here as well. Our property and home is at 10305 County Road 17 Southeast. We're about a 7-iron or an 8-iron, maybe 100 yards, 120 yards from the front door of this place, right down across the road. We purchased our property 10 years ago. We did the research in advance to determine that it was agricultural. We're both from small towns, much smaller than Delano. We wanted to have a place to have our 7 grandkids. We bought this place a month after our then 6-month-old granddaughter had a heart transplant, and we knew our family couldn't go up north and so forth, and so that's why we chose this for its rural character, and we did our homework. We learned about the zoning, and we learned about the special ecological or environmental treatment that's given along that corridor of 17 under the 2011 Wright County Plan. And we understood as buyers, as Mr. Terp should as well, that it's our responsibility to evaluate and understand what's permitted and how to go about doing those rules. And what we heard tonight, and heard at even greater length in the township meeting on Monday, were Mr. Terp and his builders. Tonight they're using the word ATV. I heard the word motocross track many times. We understand Mr. Terp doesn't even live there. He indicated, and since we're not in a court of law, I mean, and we'll talk about this DNR situation, but what he said is he bought the place intending to put a motocross track there. And so I want to tell you about 4 things. I'm going to tell you the one thing, which is why this shouldn't be approved tonight or at all. And I'll tell you 3 things as to why, if you proceed without further diligence, in my judgment and research, and apart from being a property owner and someone that is involved and loves this community, I've been an attorney for 43 years and I've done this sort of work. And so I provided a very detailed analysis to you. It's in your packet, to your council. You know, it's got it recently. We've been falling head over tea kettle for one fundamental reason here, which is that there's been an artificial crisis created by virtue of the fact that the landowner went ahead and did this without the proper permitting. I know they want to talk about having done a building, which they refer to as a shed. It's a multi-1,000-foot facility, and that they just didn't get around to apparently realizing that there was a requirement that they get a permit to dig out that pond and to move the soil. And they vastly exceeded that, and they proceeded without a permit. And now, in essence, they're coming in saying, it's a hardship to us because we spent time, we spent money, we did all of that. And it creates a vision that they're the victim, when in fact, all of their neighbors are. They haven't come to us, they haven't explained any of this. And we've been presented, the first notice that any of the property owners got was between Christmas and New Year's of this, because they didn't file their application for a cup until right before the holiday. And so now we have people that can't be here We're hearing last-minute informations about supposed hearsay conversations with the MPCA that frankly, after there's no cup that's issued, the township wouldn't go forward. There shouldn't be any work done out there until this is resolved as to whether or not this goes forward. And they shouldn't be permitted to do that, to do anything. Staff should have been out there with the MPCA. Frankly, we should have been. This is part of a due process now. And this is evidence as to my number one point as to why this is per se, not just,
Let's try to finish it up.
I will.
please.
I'm going to do these three really quickly, okay?
Okay.
Number one, the notice said it's an ATV trail and shed, all right? Everything they've said on Monday, and Mr. Terp said it's a motocross. This was a deficient notice. It didn't describe to the landowners what really is going on there, an ATV trail. That is per se an ineffective notice. And if the notice is ineffective, this entire process is ineffective. And particularly since you're getting last minute information being thrown here, we respectfully suggest that this should not be the final hearing on this at all, that you should be taking additional information. Point number two. This 40-acre site, which he doesn't even live on, and is apparently now dedicated entirely to what? A motocross facility. This is agricultural land. There are 7 exceptions or permitted uses within the agricultural area. Your statute, your ordinance says, if it's not one of those, it is not permitted. He has taken 40 acres forever out of the agricultural and residential area. It's not a cemetery, it's not a house, and he's forever turned it into a motocross facility, the antithesis of agriculture and this area. In effect, this is a rezoning. Think about it. The only person that's ever going to want to buy this again, okay, is someone that's a motocross enthusiast. And their application, it doesn't deal with who, what, when, how fast, how noisy, what hours of the day. It doesn't deal with sound protection. There's been no study about decibels. There were statements that, that were very loose in front of the township, and they didn't buy into it. They said, no, even though he said, I'm only going to use it 16 times a year. Nobody spends that kind of money and only uses it 16 times a year. But the point is, if you don't stop now and either prohibit it or attach conditions to it, forever, whoever then owns that is going to be able to do whatever they want. And whether it's Mr. Terp today or tomorrow if he changes his mind, or the owner, they can run motocross things around that, and you can go on the internet and see what that's like. And that's 140 yards from my front door. And all these other people. And you know what? Crinkyville and so forth, Mr. Terps talked about all the money he has and how much money he spent and put into there. There's a lot of people in that area that this house is what they have. It may not cost a ton of money, but it's their families, it's their use, their enjoyment. This shouldn't be about how much money I have.
Yep,
The final point I'm going to make is this.
Make it quickly.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate your indulgence. The unique feature of this land is for 4 reasons, and I've provided the maps. It is either upon, in fact, where they moved all the dirt is within a direct ecological area. This is an area that deserves an analysis and not a flyby by the MPCA. That really is, to do this and come in here and without a report or without any notice to anybody or an opportunity to be involved, that says more to me about a red flag. And I've been in, as a living, been in courtrooms my whole life. That's the sort of thing somebody waltzes in and doesn't tell you in advance and throws it out. That's a good reason to say, that's not fair. That's Pearl Harbor. We don't do that, okay? The approach here should be transparency and preparedness. And the thing that we would urge upon you is that because of the sensitivity of this, which should be the case even if he would have come to you in a timely fashion, but particularly since he created a false exigency, take the time here to do a proper analysis, to get in a proper environmental review, to engage the community, and to deal with this. Because if this is just approved, it's going to have a very negative impact on the neighborhood, and it's likely to lead to only greater discord. Thank you for the additional time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak on this matter?
My name is Barb Dunsmore, and I live on 10602 Fenner Avenue Southeast. My husband and I moved out to this area in 1993. We have 40 acres. We have 20 acres of prairie. We have a 3-acre pond, and we have always followed the rules when it came to any movement of natural environment. When I got this notice that 4,400 cubic yards of soil was relocated on this site, and that there's low areas where I don't know if they're designated wetland, but they're lowland. And if you look at your map, they have an area they call the pond. 1,800 cubic yards of soil supposedly was dredged out of that low area. My point today, and I work in the landscape architectural field, is that never have I not pulled proper permits to do work on a shoreline, property, farmland, and residential and commercial. So my point today is, if this isn't checked into and followed through by the proper state and federal organizations that monitor plant material and disturbances, you are setting precedents that something like this can be done anywhere. You can go ahead and move as much as you want and not have to have any consequences. My husband and I also have lived here long enough to have neighbors that don't understand about community and being quiet and observing the natural environment. We've had people that have had large ATVs or these souped up cars, and the noise is astounding, but they've usually moved on or whatever. As it was said before, this is a 40-acre site nobody lives on. So are you setting precedents to allow this to happen, and it becomes something that can happen all over our community? So having said that, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment? Gentleman over here.
Good evening. My name's Kyle Anderson. I live at 10470 Fannin Avenue. I actually have been asked to read 2 statements to you from some of our neighbors, some people that live in the community. The first statement is actually from Donna and Ronald Timonen. They're actually over here. If you guys wouldn't mind just standing just for a sec. They weren't entirely comfortable speaking in front of a large group, and also there's some mobility issues. So I'm just going to read their statement. It's Donna and Ron Timonen. They live at 5140 105th Street Southeast. We live very close to the motocross park. There is just one big farm field in between our house and the property. During construction, the noise from the trucks and equipment bothered us a lot. We are very concerned about the noise and dust when they use the track, especially when there aren't crops on the field to dampen the noise. Thanks for allowing us to express our concern. That was the first statement that I wanted to read. The second statement is from another one of our neighbors that lives in Crinkyville. It's from Steve and Kristen Hewish. They actually attended the Franklin Township meeting that happened on Monday night, where the township recommended that the cup not be granted, or at least be delayed for environmental review. In any case, and at that, well, I'll just read the statement. This is from Steve and Kristen Hewish. Dear Planning Commission board members, I wanted to express my concerns about the project that is happening next to our residence. The project is they're building a motocross and a large outbuilding. I believe the track will not only depreciate the values of the surrounding homes, but will also affect everyone who lives near them. We moved out from Phoenix, Arizona to be at a place we have always dreamed about in the country, surrounded by nature, with great people, and a peaceful environment. With this track being built, it destroys our dreams of where we've set our roots. We have 5 kids, one who is autistic and another who has a sensory disorder. This will limit my kids to having to stay inside due to the noise. We were at the Franklin Township meeting where their owner refused to call it a motocross track and that it would only be for his family, maybe 15 hours a year. I believed him and I started to sway to his side, but then I was shown the YouTube videos of the construction company boasting about this build and how specifically it's for motocross. They also boasted about the size of the track and that is the biggest one they have ever built. Then they showed the motocross bikes on it. This is also after the fact that the owner claimed he did not own any motocross bikes. This has gone back and forth, filled with lies and deception. Let alone they built it all without the proper guidance or permits. They destroyed the Crow River natural flow over the site and continue to destroy more. They also stated they did not bring any dirt in at the township meeting. On the videos on YouTube, they stated they brought in over 50 tons of dirt. I really hope this council will fight with us and stop this build. Now I guess I'd like to speak for myself, actually. So 4,400 cubic yards of dirt, that doesn't mean a lot to me. If someone said that to me, I just have trouble envisioning what it is. But how do you know? The construction company did post 2 videos on YouTube. I can send you the link, where they basically are boasting about how cool the project is. And you see what 4,400 tons of dirt actually means. It's immense. This motocross track, I'm sure it's going to be one of the biggest ones in the state of Minnesota. I can't imagine that it isn't. If you were to go look at the site, you'd see the jumps. They're immense. Only motocross people would dare take these jumps. They're huge. They're way up in the air. So the size of this track is quite amazing. And that's a concern. They did build some berms and so on, especially at the front end of the property. If you see on the map that actually happens to be up right now, you can see where the county road goes, and there's a blue section that has a 900 on it. They did build a berm there, but it's much lower than the height of the biggest jumps. So when these bikes or whatever vehicles they are go flying over it, the noise will just project. It's just how it'll be. And noise is pollution. Another one of the neighbors who couldn't be here, who did attend the meeting on Monday, he sent an email to me. He found a guide to noise control in Minnesota pamphlet, and it's guidance on what you can and can't do in the state of Minnesota in terms of noise. And the bottom line is that it states that noise is pollution. If it goes beyond certain decibels, it's pollution. And it also has a section about motorized vehicles, ATVs, motorbikes, whatever. That's in this packet. I can submit it to you for your review. I guess my last thought is that they did alter this property in an amazing, an astounding way. I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand when you need permission to do this or that. But if I would have had this project in mind and would have done it myself, I would have checked to see if I can do it, if I'm breaking any laws about the environment. I don't know if they did or did not break any environmental rules to do this, but I'd be amazed if they didn't have to get some kind of permission to carry out a project of this size. So thank you for hearing my concerns, and I hope that you'll find that the project should at least be delayed until it can be properly reviewed. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. Did you want to submit any of that?
I can't.
If you do, then
Yes,
just
I
give
do.
it to-
How should I do it?
Just give it to Barry.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ken.
may I ask the applicant a question?
The applicant or the gentleman that
The
spoke?
gentleman that just spoke, I'm sorry.
What's that?
Can you come back? He's got a question for you.
Mr. Anderson, is the YouTube link included in the information you just forwarded?
I have it in my phone. I can forward it to whoever would like. So I can give it to Barry.
Very well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, give it to Barry, please. There's another gentleman here, if you want to give your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Mike Kuchenberg. My address is 10175 County Road 17 Southeast. My wife is also here. Her name is Jody. We live directly across from this, right across County Road 17. I'm very concerned about this project for every reason that's been stated ahead of me. I know my property values are going to decrease. I've seen motorcycles already. I sit in my porch in the evening and enjoy sorry, I'm a little nervous up here. I enjoy the nice quiet evenings in our area. And last summer, they weren't so quiet. And I did see 2 motorcycles driving around the course. I didn't know if it was ATV. I just got the letter right before Christmas and didn't feel I could even have input on this, but I feel it's going to degrade the quality of our neighborhood, and I'm against it, and so is my wife. I just wanted to voice my opinion. I don't really have any. I really loved what this gentleman over here said. I'd give him my 2.5 minutes more if I could, because I think he's got a little bit better grasp of what's going on here. But anyways, I just wanted to voice our opinion, and I appreciate you taking the time and listening.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Sir?
Sir,
Sir?
Sorry.
Mike?
Yes.
just a question. Can you, I guess, talk about the amount of use that this is getting?
Yeah.
We've not seen it. I've seen references. I've heard it's a motocross park. How often are people riding
I've
this thing?
seen one time, and I think they were just driving around the course, kind of inspecting it after it had been built. There were 2 motorcycles, like the BMX kind of, the dirt bike kind. I work from home, and my view is right at County Road 17, so I've seen the trucks go by every day for months and months and months, bringing in dirt and moving it around, and I didn't realize there was a wetland that's been affected, and the berm is definitely not high enough. I can see it from my porch. I can see the guys driving this stuff, so.
But just a couple of guys have driven around it
Yep.
so far.
Yep, just 2 motorcycles that I've seen, yep.
Okay, thanks.
We're up
No,
here.
that's what I've seen, and that was this summer.
Sounds good. That's what I was wondering. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment on this matter?
My name is Laverne Dunsmore, and I live at 10602 Fenner Avenue Southeast, which is just a little bit east of the site. A few things, I don't want to be redundant, but there's a land use plan done in 2011 for Wright County, and I just want to specifically point out page 36, page 38, and page 34. And they talk about the ecological work that the DNR has done in this area. And I think it should be looked at very carefully, and I think Franklin Township alluded to the fact that they want to see an environmental impact statement done in this area because of the sensitivity. Now, I've lived there since 1993, and when you talk about wood chips, I've been in the horticultural industry for over 40 years. I taught at the University of Minnesota. And when someone says they're gonna put wood chips down for erosion control, that's a laugh. Because I've seen wood chips float, and they'll float away. You look at the Crow River in Delano. How many times in the spring, in the summer, and in the fall, where it's lapping at the bridge, and our property, which is 40 acres, and we have well over 100, 200 other acres that connect through our tile line down through other people that go through this real sensitive area. And I'm very concerned about flooding, because we've seen even County Road 17 has been underwater, which is just a little bit north of this site. So the volumes of water that come through here is more than what anybody's talking about. And we have, like my wife said earlier, we have a 20 acre prairie, and we have a pond, and we're trying to attract sandhill cranes to nest there, and usually they're flying through, but the one bird that we really want to get is the trumpeter swan. Noise prevents trumpeter swans from being comfortable to nest, and it takes them 3 to 5 years. And do you think we're going to be able to get trumpeter swans to nest in our area? I don't think so. So look at those documentations and take this in consideration before you make any kind of decision. I am totally against this. We've had neighbors that would go for 5-8 hours, and it's like how many chainsaws are running at one time. And we've had one neighbor that actually had to leave the neighborhood with his family for the day because of the noise. And a berm isn't going to prevent the noise when they're shooting way up in the air. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
I don't believe so. Thank you. Is there any else that would like to comment on this matter? Gentleman there?
I'm Roger Nelson, 11054 County Road 17. I just have to say, for all of you, please think very hard about this, because there's 40, 50 people that are being bothered right now because of this. Homes, and there's no doubt in any of our minds, it's just going to get worse.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to comment? Anyone else that would like to comment? We've already had a round, sir.
Just going to answer a question.
You'd have to come back up to the podium. You got a minute. Make it quick.
Take that. Mr. Malberg asked a question about how many, our understanding is they're not supposed to be running motorcycles out there at all yet because they don't have a cup, but they've been, apparently somebody's been running them. So that kind of goes to question of, we don't really have a full experience yet of what it's like, but the application has no limitations of any sort. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask for a public comment one more time. All right, I'll ask the applicant to come back up, and if you want to have any rebuttal or any answers to anything you've taken notes on, and then after that, we'll come up here to the board.
Thank you. Yes, I did take some notes. First, we fully expect you to not make a decision tonight. That's why I wanted to tell you that you should be expecting the report from the MPCA next week. I fully would appreciate if you read it and understood that he was not concerned, other than the few suggestions he made to us. We weren't trying to push this through. Somebody else called the MPCA and reported us. It was an anonymous complaint, and that's why they came today, not because we asked them to, and not because we were trying to get something through today. There's been a few comments that nobody lives there. The title on this property and in the community or the county records is Dalton Terp and John K. Terp. Dalton lives there. John is the one who spoke at the meeting the other night. Dalton was there, but chose not to speak, and so that's not accurate that no one lives there. Dalton does live there full-time. The shed, there was a comment that the shed was enormous. If you look at the top of the picture, the shed that's there, that's got the little L shape, It's identical. We borrowed his plan and used the exact plan. So this is not any larger than what any person with a horse farm or anything else would have. And to further about that neighbor is fully aware of everything we're doing. We've talked to him, he's come over, he's been really excited about it. They're not close personal friends, but he's just excited to see what's being done. And if you'll notice, he hasn't been here because he's not concerned. Now, somebody mentioned, that we're not supposed to be running motorcycles on the track yet because the cup isn't approved. This isn't an argument over whether a track is allowed. We could knock everything down and run our UTVs, ATVs, dune buggies, whatever there, and it's perfectly legal. So this isn't a question of whether they're allowed to have any kind of a track here, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not educated on motorsports, so I'm also guilty of not using the right terminology, but we're not arguing whether we're allowed to ride these here. This is simply an application to move land around. And I think the Terps would have been just as happy to move nothing around and just ride their bikes or their ATVs or whatever out there. Regarding the motorcycles that have been there and the video, this is what we do for a living. The two of the guys that work for us are semi-pro motocross riders. That was them out there on their bikes. They're the ones shooting the promotional videos because we're marketing to do more of this. And it's on our jchallett.com. Feel free to take a peek at it. I'm pretty sure it's there. You'll see all of the other work we do as well. And it's a promotional video for us. And to my knowledge, those are the only two dirt bikes that have been on that track. That was probably August, September timeframe. Mr. Terp drove his UTV out there one day and he rolled it down the hill, and now it needs to be fixed. And he actually said, maybe we need to lower the hills. They're too tall for UTVs. So he gets that too. This is a work in progress. And Mr. Terp spoke the other night, and he really resents the fact that he is treated as though, or spoken as though he just crammed this through and was all secretive about it. It's completely visible from the highway. There was no hiding anything. So that he's upset about that. This is not the only land in the area with UTVs. And as Mr. Terp pointed out at the meeting the other night, there's snowmobiles all over the place. You hear them all day long throughout the winter. This is no different. And I don't know what he has to do to convince people that he doesn't intend to use this all the time. I mean, he travels constantly for work. This is where his family comes when they want to get together to use it. I mean, it's been done since September, and you've seen two motocross bikes out there and one UTV. That's it. It hasn't even been used, and it's pretty much done. We've got some, different things to do to shape it up, but it's done and it's been done. So if they were so gung-ho to make this what everybody thinks it's going to be, you would be seeing that, and it's just not there. It really, truly is his family's activity. The two bikes that you saw won't even be there again because there are guys. I also want to clarify, we have not brought any dirt in. And then we realized as we were sitting here, we did have dump trucks coming in because we are bringing in loads of rock for the surface of the shed and the parking lot next to it. So we've brought in 50 truckloads of gravel for a parking lot and for the under the concrete. So I was confused as to where people thought we were bringing dirt in. We have not brought any dirt in and don't need to. There's plenty there. We've brought in recycled concrete.
Yeah.
Wood chips as a method of dust control and erosion control is a Minnesota pollution control accepted material. That's what we're working with. And I just want to caution people because Mr. Terp's intentions are good. And I think when government starts to impede on what you can do with your own property, that can really happen to any of us. And I think that's the last thing we want. I think people should trust this man who spoke in front of an entire crowd and said, this is not my intention to make this a motocross park. There's not going to be people coming in from all over the place and using it. It just isn't what people think it is, and I don't know any other way to convince them. I guess that's all I have. Do you have?
Yeah, just one more
Okay.
thing. The one gentleman said that we we affected a wetland. I brought up the wetland that the PCA brought up today. It's that top right above the driveway. We have not done any work on that side of the driveway at all, other than where the building is. There is zero impact to that area where the little tree clump is on the top right of the driveway. And the pond that we built was the sole intent of capturing all the rainwater from the impervious surface of the building and the parking lot. And the PCA was thrilled that we did that. We are trying to capture the impervious surface water and keep it on our property, or on Mr. Terp's property. We're not new at this. I've been doing this for over 30 years. And the meeting today went great because of my experience. So I just want you guys to take that in fact. Some of the statements they're saying are not true. They're not educated. And the meeting with the PCA is not open to the public. It is a private meeting, and his findings are private until the ruling and the case is closed. Then it becomes public. Nobody's being locked out from us. PCA has rules they follow, and those people are not invited to those meetings and are not invited to hear. We're openly willing to, on Tuesday or Wednesday when we get the ruling from him, to present it to you guys. We don't have to do that, but we want you to see that this impact that we have from them and the corrections they want us to make are minimal. It's gonna cost a couple $1,000s to have a erosion control company come out there, blow some mulch and put some bio-roll in. That's all we're doing. It's a 3-hour job for a contractor. It is minimal. We're not in major violation of anything with the PCA because of my experience. Thank you.
So we welcome your comments, and that's, we are completely comfortable with sending you the report when we get it and waiting for your review. We're not trying to push anything through. So thank you. I appreciate your time.
If you want to just stay there in case
Yeah.
anybody
Oh,
from
of
the board
course.
here has any questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
Go ahead, Jeannie.
What's your relationship with this John Terp that you said lives there?
He's our customer. We
Oh,
don't,
so
we
you
don't know him prior
So he
to.
hired you guys to
Yes.
come in and work and make the track?
Yes, he and his son Dalton own the property. Dalton actually lives there.
Okay.
John Terp doesn't live far from here.
Can you describe on this map?
Sure.
Barry, do you have where is his house?
I guess looking,
You could just pull that map back up and
Yeah,
can you zoom out? Yeah, I bet you
yeah,
can.
give me just a second.
Okay.
We have aerials.
it's further down the driveway in the woods.
Right.
There's an existing shed there in the woods, and you could see the house right there in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It's
pretty
way
Right
back.
here?
Yep.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So it would, so that whole piece of property, and there, looks like there's 2 houses, or?
Nope, that's a
That's
shed.
a shed.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And one more thing, if these people were really concerned about the noise, number one, the one resident said, there's only seen 2 bikes all summer. That's just a statement of how often he is going to use this. And number 2, you have a snowmobile trail that goes right down the trail on the highway there. And snowmobiles aren't restricted. They can run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we all know some of them are really loud. And that Mr. Oslin lives probably less than 150 feet from the road. And the snowmobiles go by there all the time. He's not complaining about that and trying to shut down the trail. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
I had a follow. You said you've been doing this for 30 years,
Over 30 years.
building motocross
Yes,
tracks.
yes.
So my follow-up question on that is, and I'm watching some of the YouTube stuff right now, and I'm going to want to go see the property, but this is a massive project for using 16 hours a year. I don't understand. It's just not making a connection for me.
I get it.
So talk to me about people actually spend the amount of money and time that they're spending with you to move this amount of dirt and then don't use it.
Okay, I will answer that. So when I met Mr. Terp earlier this summer, I've never known him before we started this project. He had just got back from a trip UTVing in northern Minnesota, and they got a whole bunch of citations from the Minnesota DNR. And he was so upset with the fact that every time they go on a trip, he says they get hassled. And he said, I just want to build my own place where I can just come out on a weekend and hang out with my family and ride and not have anybody bothering us. And but yes, it is a fair amount of money. And actually, you know what, when you look at the amount of dirt, with the size of the equipment we have, this isn't that big of a project. And I know you guys have seen housing developments and highways with large equipment. You can move that type of dirt in one day, really, if you have a big enough equipment. But yeah, I'm with you. It's odd. I'm telling you, it is. He has a lot of money, and he's trying to,
Just do
just
something
have a
cool for
place
his
for his,
family.
the building he's building is to store his own trailers, and he's got a skid loader and some attachments and stuff like that. It's not, that's all it is. It's just a giant storage building. And the people that are complaining about the building, the one right next to it is identical to it. Nobody's complaining about that because it's a horse riding arena. So I don't know how to calm their nerves, but the one resident said he's only seen 2 bikes. That was my son and our worker. And then Mr. Turp rode out there one day and slid off the side of a jump and broke his Can-Am, and he hasn't been out there since. The track is overgrown with weeds. He's not lying. He's not going to use it. He lives in Florida over 6 months out of the year. He's not even here. And his son Dalton doesn't ride. He's 24-year-old.
He doesn't even own a bike.
Yeah, he just graduated the U. He barely knows how to ride a motorcycle and use a clutch. So, yeah, it's bizarre to spend that kind of money, but when you have the amount of money he has, it's not really that bizarre. I mean, he just bought a $180,000 wood chipper to chip the trees on his property. I mean, who has that kind of money? And who would do that just to chip their own trees? So if you think spending the amount of money on that track is crazy, he bought a sawmill to build his fence. He bought the sawmill, and I mean, he built a beautiful fence around the front of the property. You should go see it. It's really cool. He bought all that. I mean, that was $80,000 sawmill. And he buys it through his business as a tax write-off. He needs tax write-off, so that's why he does it. The property, the building, he's gonna lease through his as a write-off. It's all tax write-off.
I think he'd be willing to have you out there if you'd like to see it. Wouldn't be a problem.
Do you have anything else, Pat?
Mr. Chair, Mr. and Mrs. Halleck, now, you've explained that you've been in the business for 30 years, and I presume that you have worked in the region, other counties, primarily, what is that, Dakota?
Southwest suburbs. Scott
Southwest?
County, Dakota County, Wright County, Carver,
Okay.
Rice County,
primarily
yeah.
Rice County, okay.
In those counties, and I'm going out on a limb here, I believe in those counties, they must have a similar ordinance to Wright County, where you move more than, was it 500 cubic yards in an ag zone property, you need a permit. Now, can you explain to me why, when you went into this venture, why you did not seek a permit from Wright County?
Yes, I can answer that. So when we met with Wright County and applied for the building permit, they, like the gentleman over here said, they assumed the amount of dirt being moved was part of the building project. They never once said it was required to have basically a grading permit is I think what you call it. Now it's a conditional use permit because it's after the fact. I believe that's what it is. But we do 10-acre sites on new home construction all the time, and we don't get and Scott County is extremely well run. I mean, I'm not saying anything about you guys, but they are to the letter of the law. And we primarily work in Scott. We live in Scott County. We have a 10-acre site.
And
I
how
mean,
many of these have we filled out?
yeah, I mean, we do
None.
this. Yeah, this
We've
is
never
this
been
is the
asked
first
to do
time we've been
this.
into a meeting like this.
And how many other times have you worked in Wright County?
This is our first, I think.
First time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just, we didn't expect it. It's never come up before. And we work a lot with ponds and water areas, watersheds. I mean,
Lakeshore. We do a lot of
we
lakeshore
do a lot of
restoration.
Lakeshore. We've never had an issue like
And
this
that is when
before.
you really get the crazies out.
Well, and here's the thing, this is only about the motocross
Excuse me,
track. This is
sir,
not-
did you say crazies? Are you referring to people that might be opposing something you're doing?
Well, even if you're following it to the letter of the law, they still want you to stop. We run into it. When we do Lakeshore, we have a site review with the governing authority all the time. And I'm telling you, 90% of the Lakeshore we do, we have somebody that's threatening to sue.
Well, I tell you what, we've experienced a lot of that ourselves up here, but we don't refer to them in
I'm
a
sorry,
derogatory nature.
Okay, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
But
You done, Ken?
Yes, ma'am, sir.
Ken? Dan?
First, I have a question for Barry.
Okay.
Tonight, this request is for just land alteration, correct?
Correct.
There's no commercial operation being requested for an ATV track or motocross track or anything like that. It's just for personal use, correct?
That is correct. We've had conversations with the contractor and the owner seeking that type of verification. Ultimately, we have no choice but to take the application, and we do not see the private use of off-road vehicles on a property, provided they're not, inviting the public or hosting public type events. We don't see that as a violation of our ag standards.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Any other comments up here, or how would the board like to proceed? Does the board want to do a site inspection?
I'd like to do a site inspection.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second that.
Motion made
January
and seconded. We'll do a site inspection.
We welcome it.
And
Is there any
continue
other
till
discussion?
February 8th meeting.
February 8th
Is
meeting?
that when the next one is?
Yes.
Yeah.
The next meeting's on the 8th.
Who should we schedule that with?
We will schedule, once we get it passed as a motion here. Any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor of continuing to the February meeting and having a site inspection signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. And we'll set the time and date for the site inspection at the end of the meeting. When everything is done, we'll go through and check our calendars and set up with that. So if you want to just call the office in the morning,
Yep.
and then they can let you know that, so you don't have to hang around
Okay.
till the end of the meeting to find that out.
Appreciate that.
Try calling a little bit later. With as late as this one might go, Cheryl and I might not be in right away in the morning. So we have to get that message relayed to the rest of our staff.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit of time in the morning.
And the homeowner too, we'll make sure it works for his schedule. I'm sure he'd like to be there and answer any of your questions as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
And just so the public knows, when we do a site inspection, all we are there is to do an inspection. There's no discussion, there's nothing on record, so all the board is there is to look at what has happened. I mean, granted, it's public, but, I mean, we don't take testimony, we don't do anything like that at the site inspection. We ask the applicant, questions of what has been done, take a look at things, and then we'll come back to the next meeting and have all the public comments at that time.
And new notices will not be sent for that February 8th meeting. So this is your notice that this item is continued to February 8th.
So just one more thing, Mr. Terp may not be able to attend that. He's got some health issues that just came up and he's just started treatment this week. And if his son Dalton most likely could attend, but Mr. Terp,
May not.
I'm certain he cannot attend.
Okay.
That's okay. It's just for us. Question, are we done then with public comment now?
Well, we did not
No.
close.
We did.
We did not
And
close
we
that.
we will go forward and have more public comment next time.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Standing in the back.
That's okay. Number 3 on the, tonight is Daniel Gelfus.
Did that lady want to comment?
I'm not, we're not in public comment right now. And why don't we hold on, Dan? We've got a few people clearing the room, so we can hear.
Just letting the room clear a little bit, Mr. Chairman. All right, Mr. Chairman, this item was continued from the December meeting. No information or public comment was taken as the applicant hadn't met with the township and had requested continuation to this meeting. So this will be our first look and shot at this particular property, or at least this go-round. This property should be familiar to the commission. We had started down the path of a very similar type of request on this property in 2023 with that applicant deciding not to move forward with the request. The property itself, 10.09 acres, just east of the junction of County Road 8 and 75, north of Interstate 94 in Hasty. The property is currently zoned for B1 highway business. It was originally permitted as a RV sales lot in 1997, and then in 2022, a over-the-road trucking operation was granted CUP for the property in 2022 with 2023, another applicant requesting more or less the same request. This particular request is somewhat similar. It is for the seasonal trailer rental operation to include office space repairs and storage of trucks and trailers. They are requesting 70 to 100 trailers for rent being stored on the property, as well as repair in the existing buildings and storage space for loaded trailers for customers. Site will house a few of the company's employees. It should be noted, the Hasty Truck Stop is southwest of this request on the other side of the interstate, and there's another trucking operation directly to the east. We did receive a positive recommendation from the township, and we also received a comment from the Highway Department where their comment is, as it's currently requested, they don't see the need for turn lanes, but if the traffic volume increases, they may need or want turn lanes to be installed if the extent of the operation increases and traffic becomes more steady.
Okay. All right, if you give us your name and any other comments you may have.
I'm Dan Gelfus. You need my address?
Yeah.
10101 Bren Road East, Minnetonka. I don't have much more to add to that. We covered it with this Silver Creek Township. We're a semi-trailer rental company. We store a lot of our customers. They rent the trailers, fill them up, store them on our property, or sometimes just empty trailers on our lot. Our main operation is out of Rogers. We have been for 25 years, but we lost our lease on our main property, and so we had to kind of diverse. And we've got a property in Rogers that we're leasing where our offices are gonna be, our trucks are all gonna work out of, because that's Rogers is our main hub for all our customers. And that's where our home office will be, and about 75 trailer parking spots there. But we need additional parking, 70 to 100 spots here, and we need a trailer repair shop just to work on our own equipment, which we're gonna use that building for. So we'd like to move a portion of our business up to that Hasty exit.
Okay.
That's about all I got.
Right. I'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this? Anyone in the public? If not, anyone in the public, we'll bring it back up here. Do I have any,
Mr. Chair.
Ken?
Sir, could you explain to me, your application is for the trailer parking that you would pull behind a semi-truck?
Correct, yep.
No, but not the, not trucks
We
associated?
would probably have a couple trucks. I made a couple of red spots next to the building if we keep a
Like
couple
tractor
trucks up-
trailers?
Yeah,
Or
we'd keep a
tractors?
couple tractors up there for moving the trailers around.
Okay,
essentially.
very well, thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments or concerns? Barry, I have a question on, when you were talking about the county suggesting turn lanes and by cost of, to the applicant and stuff, how would you determine that? I live in that area. You have the Hasty Truck Stop there. You have Clearwater to the northwest, with multiple new trucking companies just coming in there. Versatile is just building. Danco is only a year or two old. I mean, there's multiple trucking companies. And I guess I would really not want to see this business saddled with turn lanes or something because of the traffic that's being created in Clearwater. I mean, Clearwater is also starting up a cold storage deal they're breaking ground on. So, I mean, there's a lot of trucking traffic, and trucks use 75 to cut across to get to 94 because it's very congested in Clearwater.
Oh, most definitely. I've thought about, that specific, request from the highway department and how, in our office and with this commission, we talk about, different types of conditions and what's kind of enforceable and not enforceable and that type of thing. For myself, I would look at it more as the activity specific to this site and trucks coming on and off it. I don't think we can use, and I don't think the highway could reasonably justify the increase in just an increase in truck traffic on the highways as being a trigger for that type of requirement. It would be probably more those trucks turning in and coming out of this specific site. There again, that gets into, generally on these types of permits is if the extent of the business changes, expands and those types of things, then requiring an amendment or an expansion of the interim use permit. Similar would take place here. In their plan, they're showing, roughly 3 truck spots. In the township's review process, they're the ones that are out there. They're driving by it quite a bit. If they're seeing, a half a dozen trucks on the site and potentially moving on and off the site, in their review, they would likely then have us take a look at it, and that would then trigger that review by the highway department as well. And so in that process, that's how I would hope it would work. From the highway department standpoint, if they were to come to me and say, well, there's just a lot more truck traffic, we want them to do, turn lanes, I would then respond to them with a question and probably reach out to the property owner through, most of the time it's with a letter saying we have these concerns, contact us, has your business changed to the point where you need to amend, that type of thing. That's how I see that kind of functioning. It is a bit of a, I thought about that. I don't want to get, contacted by the highway department saying, we want turn lanes now because we're seeing all this excessive traffic or the road's wearing. Then it's, well, where is it wearing from? Can you tell me it's wearing from this? Is it wearing only in front of this because of the increased traffic? That's how I kind of see that going, is that kind of dialogue with highway and with the township as far as any addressing highway department's concerns and future requirements.
Could I comment
Yes.
on that? I did talk to a gentleman from the highway department. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. And he kind of indicated that I told him it'd be a handful of trucks coming in and out a day on average. He said if it gets up to where it's about 10 a day or more, then we might look into the turn lanes. So that's what I heard from them.
Okay, so you are aware of and
Yep.
okay.
And yeah, the cost, I wouldn't look forward to it, but didn't seem stifling what he had
Okay.
suggested to me, so.
Any other questions or comments here?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ken.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
I would move to approve an interim use permit for a semi-trailer rental operation to include office space, repairs, and storage for trucks and trailers in accord with the plans and narratives submitted and the discussion at the hearing, with the following conditions. 1, signage on the site must be in accordance with the county sign regulations. Number 2, exterior storage is limited to the locations noted on the site plan, with no more than 100 semi-trailers on site at any given time. Number 3, all waste, oil, and hazardous materials must be properly disposed of or recycled. Number 4, any future road improvements must be completed according to Wright County Highway Department guidelines. Number 5, any change in use or expansion requires an amended interim use permit hearing. Number 6, this permit shall expire upon transfer of the property, termination of any lease agreement, or change in business ownership or operations.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion here?
Just one quick item here. On number 4, without anything defined in that motion, to me, it tells me that it's up to the highway department no matter what. In other words, if they decide that they want him to put turn lanes in, then he has to do it. Is that correct or not?
Mr. Chair and Member Bravender, if the highway engineer dictates that you put turn lanes in their highway right-of-way area, they're gonna make you put turn lanes in. to continue
Well,
accessing that site.
the reason I asked this is because I had to deal with this on our home extended business with the US Highway 12. And in my application, they asked for estimated traffic volume in that application, just like he had stated that the 10 vehicles, and that's why I was wondering, does that need to be put into the motion or not?
Mr. Chair and Member Bravender, I would recommend leaving it in the motion in the instance that the highway engineer does determine that there is an increase over what has been represented at this point in time and a change in use is needed.
Leaving putting a number in there, you mean?
I
or
would
not?
leave number 4 in there, that condition. I would not recommend it.
And I wasn't saying take it out. I was just saying, should it have a number number of vehicles?
Oh, to that regard, I
Yes.
wouldn't, I prefer that we not,
Okay.
just given highway safety standards. I think it's
I'm
best
okay
left to the
with
engineer.
with the current highway department. They're really
Yeah.
good with that. But
They're good with it. I would leave it up to the highway engineer's
Okay.
discretion.
The one issue I would see with the number would be is if that number is exceeded, but the highway department then says, now we're gonna wait and maybe change it. Well, now we have a violation of a condition of our permit with no cause of our own.
Yep.
So if
Yeah,
we
that's
put a specific number on it and highway, their requirements change or they don't feel it necessary, now all of a sudden we've created a situation that is a little bit odd for us.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have.
Any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Number 4 on the agenda tonight is Robert Hudgens. If you want to give your name and address for the record, we'll get started.
Yes, sir. I'm Robert Hudgens. My address is 13927 Dillon Avenue Northwest, Monticello, 55362. And I have my wife and my business partner here with me tonight also.
All right, thank you. Barry, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is a 2.26 acre lot in what is called Nessie Shores on Lock Lake in Silver Creek Township. The property is zoned R2 suburban residential and S2 lakeshore. The request is for an interim use permit for a home occupation for a firearms assembly and office space associated with sales and training operation. The training would not be conducted on site. It's strictly office space in relation to the training that would be conducted. And all activities would be located inside the existing residence. We did not receive any neighbor complaints or comments regarding this request. The township has approved with conditions that no outdoor shooting or testing of firearms and no in-person training within the residence. And they would like a review after the first year of the permit being issued if it's issued today.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything you would like to add as to what the business is pertaining to?
No, sir, not at the moment.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this matter? Anyone from the public? If not, we'll bring it back up here. Dan?
Just one question on the online sales. Are they going to be coming to pick their product up at your place, or are you shipping it out? How's that going to work?
It will be shipped to another FFL
Okay.
address, and so we will take firearms to a shipping location, or on occasion, we may get UPS or FedEx to come out and make a pickup.
Okay, thank you.
Greg?
Mr. Chair, I just want to follow up on what my member Bravender asked. I assumed you're a licensed federal firearm dealer, is that correct?
So this is the first step in obtaining an FFL. The ATF requires zoning for the property that you're going to use. And they will actually verify that I have all of the correct zoning and that I have taken care of that. So this is the first step in the process.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, concerns?
No, Mr. Chair, Greg, in light of that answer, we don't need some condition that says don't violate federal law, right?
Well, I was actually going to, during the discussion, recommend condition 6 that just requires him to have a federally licensed firearm license to sell firearms
To
on site.
commence the business operations.
Commence some business operations, or commence selling on site, which, I mean, yeah. If he violates federal law, he has other issues than our city.
Right, we don't,
Yeah.
we can say that the
Yes.
same way that we say follow the law in other ones, but his
Yes.
problems are much bigger with the feds than they are with the planning commission.
Yes, this body compared to the ATF is worlds apart.
Yeah.
The license here is similar to like an auto sales license. The state does the same thing with us. You know, I have to sign documents from the state all the time verifying that they have the proper, you know, zoning approvals to run the business that they're gonna run. And similar, this is step one of the process, or a step in the process of the licensing process through the other agencies.
As drafted, our motion talks about the online sales. It doesn't, the way that I read the file, it doesn't look like there's any reason that any customer themselves are going to travel to your residence. And so if there was a condition that there's not going to be any business, any like retail side business conducted at the premises, would that be okay with you?
So at the moment in the narrative that I wrote, I made the statement that if anyone should come, that it would be by appointment only. I do not care to have people that I don't personally know coming to my house for this purpose.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Are you ready for a motion?
I make a motion, Mr. Chair, to approve an interim use permit for a home occupation for firearms assembly, training, and online sales in accordance with the discussion plans and description held on file with the following conditions. 1, no outdoor discharging or shooting of firearms. 2, no in-person training allowed within the residence. 3, township to review in July of 2025 with subsequent reviews at an interval established by the township. 4, any change in use or expansion requires an amended interim use permit. 5, this permit shall expire upon transfer of the property, termination of any lease agreement, or change in business ownership or operations. And 6, abide by applicable federal law.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Do we have any other discussion? Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Step 1 done. Number 5 tonight on the agenda is Jane Shanks. Want to come up, give your name, and we'll get started?
Hi, good evening. I'm Jane Shanks. I live at 852 90th Street Northwest in Buffalo, Minnesota.
Okay. Barry, when you are ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is located at the northwest corner of Armitage Avenue Northwest and 90th Street in Silver Creek Township on Eagle Lake. It's roughly 15.8 acres with some shoreline along the lake. The length of the shoreline is fairly limited, and it is the shape that it is. It is currently zoned agricultural, but is in the plan for rural residential, both with that S2 overlay district. It is considered a lot of record, has one building entitlement, which is the existing house. The request today is for the rezoning of the property to R2A, suburban residential, with the residential recreational S2 overlay district, provided the commission approves, or if the commission approves, the applicant will be coming back with a subdivision request of the property for 3 lots, within that R2A district. The applicant has not yet met with the township. They'd asked to get on the township's calendar, but the township has a cutoff date for their meetings, and they weren't able to get scheduled in time for this particular meeting, so they are scheduled with the township on February 6th. So at current time, we don't have a township recommendation, but the applicant has the ability to come here and still make their case before this commission, so they have requested that.
Anything you would like to add?
Yeah, just that we're choosing to do this now. A year or so ago, my son moved in with us tentatively for a month or two after he sold his house. And then my husband, who had Parkinson's, got progressively worse. And so he stayed to help me take care of him in the evening. I had someone in the morning that would help me, but, and so about a year ago, I said to him, I said, what are your plans? And he said, well, haven't really made any because I don't think I can. And I said, well, you're 43, you don't need to live in my basement, because at that point we didn't know, how long my husband was gonna live. And he suggested maybe he might want to build out in my field. And as it turned out, my husband did die in April, and so we kind of just left it, mostly because we just didn't know quite what we wanted to do. But now my son is still thinking about wanting to move, or not move, but, well, move too eventually, but build a house there. And I'm certainly not opposed to that. I think I'm young, but most people think I'm not. And I'm very healthy, but, at some point, I may need the help that he was willing to give my husband. So that's one reason that we're looking to do this now, is to allow him to build.
All right. Does anybody up here have any questions to start? We'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this? If not from the public, then we'll bring it back up here. And I guess, I don't know how the board wants to proceed, but normally we like to hear the comment
Yeah.
from the township.
Township, yes.
And, being you're here, we want to hear what you have to say. But normally we'll continue it until the township gives us a response. And then from
Yeah.
there, we'll
That's
take,
what I was assuming
from
would
there.
happen, but
Yeah.
just thought I could start here.
Yep.
To give you kind of a heads up. My only question then is, their meeting is on the 6th and your meeting's on the 9th. Would you have their
yes.
results by then?
As long as their meeting is before our meeting.
So then
they
it would
can
be okay.
fax it
So
down
if I-
to staff and they'll get it into.
Okay,
out
so
to
if I
us.
come back on the 9th,
Yeah,
we should be able to,
February 8th.
8th.
and yeah, February 8th, excuse me.
As long as their meeting is before our meeting,
Okay,
yeah, we can get the results.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate your time.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, does the commission want to conduct a site inspection since we're going to have this delay? We're already scheduling a site inspection, so do you want to add this as one of the stops at that inspection?
We certainly can. I mean, it's up to what the,
Yeah, I won't need to see it if I think I have this property right. If you look across the street, it's the Wright property with
Yes,
the.
Mr. Wright owns all of
This is
this.
the side with the picnic table that's 80 feet
Yes,
tall. And
absolutely, yeah.
And so
Yeah,
if you've been out and about, and we had Wright's visit a few years ago, it's right across the street.
okay.
Yeah, and we're right across from his stable.
I don't need to see it, Mr. Chair.
Okay. That's fine. We don't need to add it. We can just continue. If you give me a motion, we can continue it.
Sounds like everybody's good with that. I'll make a motion that we continue to February 8th meeting to hear township's response.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries.
Thanks for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Yep, and again, like I told the other one, we'll set any, well, we continued. We didn't do the site inspection. I'm sorry. We're good. See you next month. And we're gonna take a chairman's break for 5 minutes here, and then we'll reconvene. We'll call the meeting back to order, and next on the agenda is Perry Silta.
Siltala.
Sitala.
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 If you want to come up here, please, and give your name, and we will get started.
I'm Perry Siltala. I live at 1034 Oliver Avenue in Cokato.
All right. Barry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The property is 26.63 acres, sits along 10th Street and Oliver Avenue in Cokato Township. Currently zoned general agriculture and is designated as general agriculture in the land use plan. The request is to rezone the property to AR Ag Residential to build one home on the site. We have received comment from Cokato Township. They are recommending denial of the request because it is not in the land use plan for further development. We have not received any other comments.
Right, thank you. Is there anything you would like to add to that?
Yeah. So from my part on the land is, to push forward, get a home built, a building on it. We've done a lot of, different crops on it. It is zoned ag from corn, soybeans, black beans, alfalfa, none grow, very great at all. The soil borings have been done on the property for making sure it would hold a septic. Them all came back, and that they will hold a septic in many locations. And other than that, that's about it. Just trying to so we can build our slab on grade home.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this matter? Is there anyone from the public? If not, we'll bring it up here. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns up here?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Barry, this is non-riparian.
Correct.
It's close to the river, but not any part of it's riparian. So the question that I have is, under the standard that we have, this zoning can only happen in rare and unique circumstances. And so if you could speak as to what makes the property in this circumstance rare and unique. What I've heard so far is the soil is fine, you can grow some things, and that you'd like to have a home on it, which is probably the way a lot of people with some excess land feel. And so I need to hear more.
Yeah, correct. So, yes, does the property go up to the river? It goes up to the river. Hey, you have great fishing, canoeing, whatever you want. The county park is there. The current home that's there, hoping one of my kids will buy it, move in. I have 7 of the little blessings, so enjoy the park, enjoy everything. Yes, it is zoned as ag. Is it a very productive ag land? No, it is not. Is there a better use for it? Yes, there is. Build a house. We've tried a lot of crops.
Mr. Chairman, I am mistaken. There is a small portion and corner that would qualify as that S2. It wouldn't be something that would meet minimum requirements for width, but technically speaking, S2 does exist in that northwest corner. Maybe a little bit of portion on that far west side. The river classification is 300 feet, lake is 1,000, where shoreland is drawn.
So for my own clarity's sake, then, Barry, is the standard not the rare and unique, but the shorelands especially suited?
I'd say both. Given that in this case, it's unlikely that, a home is going to be located, or the vast majority of the property, other than a small sliver, is within the shoreland, it would still require the shoreland especially suited, but since the building site could certainly be well outside of the shoreland area, the rare and unique would be something you could use as well, or evaluate.
Really? I mean, I'm just trying to get the standard right, and as this board has heard me ad nauseum on issues like this, that standard really matters for me, and I've not had, I think, an experience in the past where we've said, you can look at it under the A and B standards, even though it says or. And so I'm more looking broadly speaking when these issues are coming before us. Is this an and scenario where we get to look at both?
Well, Mr. Chair, Member Mulberg, I believe it's an or. And with that or, you can look at both in this instance, given that small area of how the river touches that northwest portion of the property. If this planning commission feels that because of that small area that abuts the river, that now it's riparian lots on shoreline especially suited for residential development, then you can move forward with that analysis under that criteria. If you don't believe it meets that criteria, you are still left with the overall rare and unique circumstance that applies across the board on all situations.
Okay.
And I'd invite you guys to do a, site visit. There's no problem. You come see how beautiful it is. It's a beautiful piece.
Any other questions? concerns?
Mr. Chair, Barry, could you put up the aerial view once again, please?
I have a slide for it, but I have this right here, so I'll throw that one up for you.
I'm sorry? Now, Mr. Sitala, you live in that home right there, kind of on the
Correct.
west end?
Correct.
And you're aware that the parcels surrounding you there is a restricted parcel?
Yes.
And that was because, what, an entitlement was sold off or something of that nature?
I'm not sure. So back in it'd be in my abstract, I went through basically the whole thing. Originally, there was 4 building entitlements on my parcel. Where they all are, I don't know. It'd be obvious that 2 would be used up. The one to the south, my own. And what is, I am not up to date. Do not know where the other 2 building entitlements would be. I'm more than happy to pull the abstract, and bring it if needed. But yes, at some point there was 4 building entitlements on that property.
What I would say is that there were never 4 entitlements on this property. There were 4 entitlements on the Munson farm, which includes property to the north. And so actually the house in that northwest corner isn't an entitlement from this quarter. It was actually transferred by Munson from the property to the north of the road to this property. So he transferred one here so that division could take place where that house sits. And so it's this quarter actually has 2 used entitlements, both of which came from the Munson farm, which included more acreage north of this, restricting this particular quarter. So the 27 acres that is left is restricted and does not have further entitlements. The Munson farm had 4 in this area, but this property, this specific 27 acres, or what was 30 some odd acres and then 40 acres, never had 4 individually on it. It was the farm had 4.
Thank you.
Okay. Dan?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to address Perry. We did talk at quite length about this on Monday night. This is an area that we want to have changed in our land use plan, which probably isn't going to be till 2025, I'm hearing right now. Is that when we're going to be looking at the land use plan changes?
Correct.
Okay. And we have this property earmarked for designating it in our land use plan as ag residential. You're right, there's not much that can grow on that property. If you look right to the south, that's where the Cokato gravel pit used to be. And that riparian part, or the S2's part of it up on the northwest corner is on the other side of the township road. I would recommend the board go out and look at it. It is unique. And I'm just one person on this board. I think it'd be good for the board to look at it and just to see if it meets that rare and unique criteria according to Mr. Malberg's standards.
Are you done?
Yep.
Member Bravender, can you expound a little bit on why this is rare or unique?
The uniqueness of it is that it's, if you can look at the drawing there, but it's kind of a choppy piece. It's cut up a little bit with the dwelling in the middle that was created. And that was done by the Mutson when they moved that entitlement. I don't remember how long ago it was. It was quite a while ago for that house. Its best use of this land is going to be recreational in nature and not agricultural. Unfortunately, it is in our land use plan as agricultural. And there's no other ag residential in the area. You have 70 acres to the east that's he doesn't, I don't think he has any crops. That's all trees and hunting land, basically. On the north side, the Munson property, there is ag land up there. But because of its proximity to the river, it's just not very good ag land.
Don't you have a lot of that? And come 2025, aren't you probably going to earmark a bunch more
Yes.
as rural residential?
Especially along the river area.
Right.
Because it's not productive land in that way.
So, but I'm struggling with, it sounds to me like this is within a class of a bunch of property like this that the township would and probably will redesignate.
Yes.
And 2 years from now, we'd have a different standard to apply, but we have the standard that we have, and even
Right.
best I can tell, the township board's members and all of them said under the current standard, this isn't gonna work, even though we want it to change in the future.
And, we're just trying to be consistent with decision-making process.
Well, I am too.
And you know me, I'm a yes man. But this board knows that I'm in favor of requests like this, but I also have to look at what happens in the middle of this area when we have a lot of acreage to the north, a lot of acreage to the east, and they are always going to be the same property owner. And believe me, when they change property owners, things change. And as soon as they see an ag residential on this area, if it changes property, it's going to change, almost guaranteed, to take advantage of that.
Do you think that going out there to look at this, knowing your history of issues like this, not your history, but the discussion that sometimes repeats itself, what is it that a site visit would do?
I think the site visit is going to give you a better idea of what the topography of the land is. Dan might already know that because maybe he's in that area a lot, but the neighboring properties that are on the same side of the road by the river, I think would give you an idea as to what that land is used for primarily. And it is not ag. So it's unfortunate that it's in the ag classification because it doesn't belong there, but that's where it is.
And a bonus for it not being in the ag is higher tax revenue for Wright County. And
I'm trying to talk myself out of this decision that we made, but I have to stick to it because, you know, we are gonna be diligent about changing this land use when the time comes to do that. Okay?
Yeah, and that's fair. And for the record, because the idea is it has some common sense appeal, the fact that it would be a more valuable and better piece of land. It's not in our standard, right? The idea that we can make more tax revenue off of it is just not something that we get to make our land use decision based on, as
is
actual as it is.
An added perk.
Yeah.
And on the agricultural point, agricultural doesn't just mean corn and soybeans. I mean, agricultural means woodlots. It means agricultural is open land, hunting land, you know. So just to say that it doesn't raise a crop doesn't mean it's not agricultural land. It's still agricultural land. It's open land. It can grow trees. It can grow anything agriculture, meaning it can grow stuff.
Yes, I've planted many trees on the property
So,
to date.
I mean, it is ag land. Does it grow great soybeans and corn? Probably not. I think in a situation like this, it's not in the plan. We have our criterias we need to meet, and if things are gonna change potentially in 2 or 3 years, 4 years, you know, we look at back then, you know, when things change, if they do change. But for me, it's really hard to do this when it's not in the land use plan. You look at it, it is all large lots around it. And it has to start someplace, but it's not, it's still ag. And that's the portion of the county that is still relatively rural. So, and it's, you know, coming down the line, your township is gonna have to decide too, how much growth do you want? That's another conversation another day. But for right now, it's not in the land use plan. And as far as the riparian, the portion that's riparian is a very small piece and you couldn't even build on it. So I understand what we're saying and we're using or, but that portion is very small and it's on the opposite side of the road. So I find it hard to use that as a criteria for rezoning. Any other?
Chairman, to get this straight then, if we did rezone it to what he's asking, which would be
Ag residential.
ag residential, we could make that change, but then in a week from now, he could sell it and pop a bunch of houses on it.
Not a bunch.
No, but,
It's pretty minimal, the building area on that property.
so it's pretty restricted.
Yeah.
And it's, and you said it was some old gravel? It was an old gravel
No,
pit?
to the south of it was the old Cokato Township gravel pit.
Okay.
But not on the property.
No, not on
Not
that
on the
property.
property?
It was just, just the next property to the south. Yep.
I guess.
Mr. Chair, I guess I'd like to, if there aren't other questions, if Mr. Bravender wants to make a motion for a site inspection to test that out, that's
Sure, I'll make that
fine.
motion. I'd like to make a motion for site inspection and continue it to February 8th.
Right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same way.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Number 7, Bruce. I'm not even gonna try the last name.
Bruce Wolraby, 1773 Foley, Maple Lake.
Okay, Barry, when you are ready.
Just one second, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is a roughly 21-acre site on Foley Avenue on Rock Lake. Rock Lake is a recreational development lake in Chatham Township. The property is already zoned R2A, which occurred in 2017 with a 3-lot subdivision. We recently heard the property to the south of this with a re-subdivision request that adjusted the south property line in July. This request is to further divide that existing 21-acre site into 2 properties, both exceeding the 5-acre requirement and meeting the 300-foot minimum width requirement. We do have a plan for that proposal. Kind of one of the interesting things, and the survey kind of shows it a little bit, but without being able to zoom in, you don't see it as well. It does look like the surveyor did misrepresent where that existing septic system is. According to the survey, that septic looks like it's right on the property line, just south of the house. When you look at, I didn't include the septic inspector's drawing, but looking at it earlier today, the mound system itself is actually 185 feet south of the house, which would put it roughly in the middle of that lot that's being created. As part of this, the property owner would be abandoning the existing septic system and putting a new system back to the kind of the north and east of the house, where, not on this plan. I do have another plan, not in the PowerPoint, that does show where the septic borings were taken, both for the existing house lot and the new proposed lot. So they did show additional sites on both properties for both primary and alternate septic sites. We have received approval from Chatham Township, and no other responses have been received.
Okay, thank you. Anything you'd like to add to that?
No, Mary explained it pretty well.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this matter? Anyone from the public? If not, we'll bring it up here. I have one question or concern. Looking at, Barry took care of the septic already. I seen that on our handouts. But the next thing is the house, it looks like the house is only about 30 feet from the new established property line.
Yes.
Now, on that existing house, I guess I'm looking at it for any setbacks in the future, for variances. I mean, is there enough space there to have decks built on, additions built onto that house? I sit on the Board of Adjustments, and you have a great big lot there, and you're putting the house right up against the line. All I see is variances coming because it's on a lake, and I want to add on, because this bedroom isn't big enough after you sell it to somebody else, and I want to put a big deck on it, and I want to do all this stuff. I have 10 children, and the house ain't big enough. So I get really concerned when I see a huge parcel, and we're splitting this parcel up, and we can do whatever we need to do, and you're putting the house right up against the property line, within 30 feet of it, and setbacks are 15 feet, so you don't get much of a deck. You can't add on an entrance, you can't add on another bedroom to see the lake.
Well, there already is a deck on the back side of the house. It is a 5,000 square foot house, and that's why we want to build a smaller house and retire in it. It's like a 5-bedroom house, and there's nothing on that side there's only one window on that south side of the house. So the rest of it's wide open, but I don't know. It's a big house the way it is.
I sit on the Board of Adjustments. I listen
I
to
hear ya.
people that need more, and I'm looking at you putting that lot line so close to the house.
What I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, is the minimum setback requirement for the primary structure or anything attached to it is 30 feet.
Right.
So no, there would not be any room without a variance to put any additions or any type of expansions on the south side of the house. with this arrangement.
Thus is my concern. You know, we approve these lines and we approve these splits as submitted. In the future, you're already saying you're probably gonna sell it, rebuild, and somebody else is then going to be, if they ever wanna add on to that. I'm just trying to make it clear, put it on record that,
That's fine. The house isn't conducive to build that way though. I mean,
Okay. okay. Any other questions or concerns?
Mr. Chair, and please indulge me. Now, typically, a prospective buyer of that newly created parcel A, if this is approved, looks at that home and wouldn't he know what the setbacks are? And as you mentioned, this is a huge lot. I mean, he's got, what, at least two more sides of the home he could add on if he wanted to. So I'm not too sure if I share your concern relative to that property line where it's placed now in relationship to the home.
Have some faith with me sitting on the Board of Adjustments, what people do.
I know, well.
I'm the representative from Board of Adjustment.
What I would add, Mr. Chairman, is that, you know, new buyers are presumed to know the rules, but that doesn't mean they know the rules.
That's right.
Well,
And they come in for permits and the office tells them, well, you can't go that way, but I want to do that. And then they come for variances. So.
And you say no.
Oh, no, we always say yes. We work with them the best we can. So, no, I guess I'm making him aware of it, and if that's what he's asking for, then that's what he's asking for. I just want to go on record and state
I
it.
appreciate that.
Any other comments, concerns, questions? Somebody ready to present a motion?
Okay. Mr. Chair, I would recommend a motion to approve a conditional use permit for a two-lot unplatted subdivision in accord with the survey completed by Otto Associates, Inc., dated August 11th, 2023, with revisions dated November 1st, 2023, file number 23-0332, with the following conditions. If required by Chatham Township, access permits must be obtained before any construction activity commences. Number two, the commission notes that it appears wetlands exist, and these wetlands must be avoided. No alteration of the wetlands may occur without prior approval by the Wright County Soil and Water Conservation District. Number three, per feedlot regulations, the AR parcels will be allowed a 1/2 animal unit per acre and will not be allowed to reach 10 animal units. Number four, all portions of the existing septic system over the proposed property line or not meeting property line setback requirements must be properly abandoned and a new septic system servicing the existing dwelling installed prior to the lot being created. And now, just a question here, do we have to mention that this survey indicates that the septic is improperly placed? Because we're referring to this survey in part of the motion, so just a question, or are we okay with it?
You don't have to mention it as part of the motion. The motion is saying it just needs to be abandoned. So it's covering the septic system as it sits there.
Okay.
If you want it displayed on the survey, that would then.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that the survey now displays a septic system right on the line, serving the home to the north. That's incorrect.
Correct.
So I'm referring to Mr. Otto's file number 230332, and that's what it shows.
You can certainly make that note in the motion. That would make any future buyer of it, it would make them aware of it upon
Right.
title search.
Okay, well, maybe I can say something like this. Number 5, looks like that would be a new septic system for the home to the north, right?
Yes.
Okay, I would say something to the effect that the septic system serving the existing home on parcel A is incorrectly placed, or something of that, along that line. Help me out here, Mr. Kraser.
Well, Mr. Chair and Member Felger, I hate to say this, but I'm not sure we have evidence where that septic system actually is. We have a design from what Barry has indicated, a septic designer or septic inspector indicating it was somewhere else, but
Well,
Mr. Otto did the survey and certified it where it is.
I
He
thought
put
that
his
was
license on the line.
I thought that was a proposed septic location.
I would prefer not to put it in there in the event that it would be factually inaccurate.
No, that is not the new proposed location. That is the location of the existing system
Okay.
servicing the house.
All right, okay, then I guess we're okay. Right?
Yes.
Because I think on the aerial view, and I like aerial views, by the way, Barry, it appears that that mound system is situated down in parcel B, quite a distance away, which would be right about in the center of that new parcel B near the lake. That make sense? Yeah. That one would be abandoned,
Yes.
correct? And a new one built up on parcel A somewhere.
Correct.
Okay.
If I remember the soil borings correctly, it's up in this area.
All right, okay, well then I guess I'm okay with that motion, as I read it.
Okay, do I have a second to it?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? There's no other discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, number 8 is Gregory Knopf.
Hi, I'm Greg Knopp. I live at 6950 Bell Street in Greenfield.
Okay, Barry, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the property is a 10-acre parcel located along 30th Street Southeast in Rockford Township. It was rezoned to AR Ag Residential in 2019, along with a 4-lot unplatted subdivision that followed that. The application is to operate a CNC machining and tooling service company as a home extended business use within a proposed 2,000 square foot structure. CNC company makes specialty parts for the automotive industry. As mentioned, it would all be within that 2,000 square foot building, and the business does not have employees outside of the existing family. We did receive approval from Rockford Township, and we did have one neighbor that has submitted questions and concerns and does not recommend approval. Actually, I got a second one that's in your packet, but I did not change the text of the staff report, so we do have 2 neighbors that have submitted a comment.
Thank you, Barry. Is there anything you would like to add to that as to what you're asking for?
We run a small machine shop that builds parts for the automation industry for what's called end-of-arm tooling for the robotic arms. So we build fingers that are parts you can carry in your hands. We don't have any truck traffic, no outside storage, no employees. Clean, quiet, no noise that would penetrate the walls of the building. Do all our own delivering, pickups, so no customers come to our site. Clean and quiet, shouldn't bother anybody.
Okay. That all you have?
Sure.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this? Gentleman back there, if you want to have a seat. Is there somebody here that would like to comment?
Good evening.
My name's Eric Bitterman. I live at 1517 30th Street Southeast with my wife Stephanie and our children. Anyone? May I continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. We live right next to the petitioner's lot that's addressed in this petition that's requesting a home extended business. We share a significant property line with the property. Our house, my house, is situated directly behind the proposed building site to the south, and our long driveway tracks with the full western segment of the lot, of the petitioner's lot. Stephanie, my wife, and I have serious concerns about proposed home business. We've reviewed the proposal. Our biggest concerns with the wording that's in the petition as it exists. We've reviewed it. The CNC machining type of business contemplated here is an industrial nature. It's not a proper fit with an otherwise residential area, primarily because of the environmental impact that's at risk. First, CNC machining requires an extraordinary amount of water to operate, which can have an impact on local water supplies. All the residences that surround this area rely on a private well for water, which means we're all drawing from the same underground source. Consumption of the shared underground water source for any business purpose that outpaces standard residential use should not be allowed within the area, because over time it could impact the surrounding residents' use and enjoyment of their property by depleting available water resources. This should not be allowed. Second, the lubricants and/or coolants required to operate CNC machines, as I've learned, can be toxic in nature and at times non-biodegradable. They are byproducts, as well as the byproducts potentially of the machining process. I can't speak specifically to the business owner's type of machining. The waste generated from CNC machines is industrial, both in its volume and its composition, perhaps scrap metals, plastics, coolant. I'm informed that just one CNC machine can generate gallons of toxic waste per week. We're talking about waste that requires extreme care and caution in handling, and that, if not properly disposed, could severely impact surrounding environment as well as the underground water source mentioned earlier in my point. Even though I would imagine the operators would endeavor to safely handle lubricants and waste, we all know that mistakes and accidents could and do happen. This is an unnecessary risk that cannot be eliminated simply by imposing that accidents would not happen by the business owner. Third, CNC machines require a lot of energy to operate. Petitioners have not indicated in the existing petition, to my knowledge, how they intend to power it. Largely, and maybe not of noise concern, as he states, but it could be the large electrical connections that might not be compatible with the aesthetic enjoyment of the neighbor's properties and should not be allowed. Similarly, business signage, which I have read the ordinances, is not exactly mentioned in the petition, but maybe it's just that it would abide by the ordinance as it exists. We understand that in some cases, the process of CNC machining can improve the overall environmental impact of industrial production at scale. And there may be CNC machines practices that have less environmental impact than others, but nonetheless, this residential neighborhood, agricultural residential, is not an appropriate location, in our opinion, at this time. The request does not sufficiently alleviate these concerns as written, and we respectfully request that it be denied or requested for further guidance. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment? You?
Hi, my name is Rebecca Heskin. I'm here with my husband, Danny, and we live at 1756 30th Street Southeast, across the street from this proposed location. As we think about having businesses in this area, I think about when we first moved to this area. It was about 2 years ago. We spent honestly years trying to find this perfect spot to build our house. We spent a long time doing a custom build of our house, and we specifically picked this location because we felt after all of our extensive research that we kind of had a good grasp on what would happen around us in the future. We knew that there were 2 10-acre lots across the street and expected that there would be 2 homes there at some point in the future. With the rest of the area, there's already built homes on large lots. We refer to it as our oasis. It's our way to get away from corporate America, relax, see the wildlife around us, and we're highly concerned about this type of industrial business coming into the area. It's not somebody selling veggies on the corner. It's truly an industrial business that we, even depending on how it's written today or how it's operated today, what's going to happen 5 years down the road, how would we know that it wouldn't change the property? So we have a lot of concerns in terms of noise, hours of operation, and disposal of chemicals that could potentially impact our well in the future. I understand that there was a comment about not a lot of added traffic from this and no customers, but certainly there would be deliveries to this type of location. And I'm not sure what the limitations would be to make sure that noise doesn't disturb residents in the area. I also understand from the ordinances that there can be a 35 square foot sign advertising for the business. It just doesn't feel like it fits in a residential community. And we'd really like to preserve it for all the families that, like ourselves, have recently or will in the future put down roots and want it to remain residential.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment? Gentleman back there.
Hey, I'm Casey Hetzel. I live at 1498 30th Street Southeast, kind of just kitty corner there. I'm pretty much on par with everything else that's been said already. Being as I am a CNC machinist for a living, I kind of gave some info to some other people, this and that, whatever. I just wanted to voice my concerns on it. Is the same thing as the environmental stuff, whatever. I know we make lots of coolant waste. I'm a CNC machinist right in the city of Buffalo. We actually do nickel plating and some other stuff there, so we have EPA in there constantly. So if we have to have our stuff monitored, considerably, I would think that going into a septic might not be that great of an idea if it's not cared for responsibly. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is power requirements. Most anything industrial setting like that will be 3-phase power, not single-phase power. So are we gonna have to be adding, power poles or digging giant stuff up, and altering an entire neighborhood system? Might have power outages, whatever. And then just the traffic stuff. As I moved out there in 2010 and it was a gravel road, so I've been through the changes, this and that through the township, everything of being a paved road. So now the traffic load has gone up tremendously, and keeps going up. With no employees, it wouldn't be a whole lot of traffic, but you are still gonna have to have raw materials delivered. So you are gonna have trucks going in and out. You're gonna have to have deliveries or shipments of parts going out. So just something else to look at. That's basically all of my concern. Just, more of an industrial type aspect in a residential situation. I have 2 small kids that I worry about running around too with the increased traffic around, being as there is the corner right there and nobody stops already. Stop sign. So that was all I had.
All right, thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment on this matter? Gentleman there.
Hello, my name is Danny Heskin. I live at 1756 with my wife, Rebecca. Yeah, I have a couple concerns here. We're kind of struggling to understand why a business that's been in operation since 2006, so going on 20 years now, would now want to move into a residential neighborhood. It seems like you kind of start there and move into an industrial area. It just seems backwards. It's easy to say it's clean, quiet, no traffic, but what's the actuality of it? It could improve, it could expand, and if 1%, it's going to go, you know, all that stuff's going to go down in the soil and down the well. I think 1% is too much for a residential neighborhood. We're all 100% reliant on the wells. The other thing I have a question on is the employees. In his packet, he said it's only family members that are his employees. Were those family members living at the house? Are they commuting in every day? You know, what exactly is happening with that? And then the hours of operation. It says daily, 8 to 4 on the packet. Does that mean he's going to be doing on Saturday, Sunday, you know, all year round, every day? So we're going from absolutely zero noise in this very quiet residential neighborhood to now having an industrial building right across the street from us. And then the last thing I have is the code requirements completely understood here? If you're building a F2 factory industrial setting, won't that have to be to the IBC codes? So now you're putting an IBC light industrial factory across the street from a residential home. I just feel like that should not be allowed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this matter? Anyone else from the public that would like to comment? All right, we'll bring it back up here, and if the applicant would like to come up, and if you want to address any of the concerns or things that were brought up, give you that chance.
Sure, I can tell you the water usage is not a problem. The machines have recycled tanks on them. So it'd be 100 gallons that just continually recycle in there. It's not using a bunch of water. The coolant is all maintained inside of a closed system. There's no carry out. The waste, the very little chips that we make are recycled. We don't have, this isn't a big industrial operation. Most of what I do is designing, CAD work and CAM work. There's machining at the end. It's very little. It's mostly a lot of laptop work. The energy we met with Wright Hennepin, there's already 3-phase power running right through the front of the property. They would all be buried. There wouldn't be anything exposed. We use very little power. Is not a big industrial operation. We don't require deliveries of material or shipping. We do all that ourselves in our pickup truck. Again, it's all stuff that you can carry in a box in your arms. My family, I have a freshman and a junior in high school. That's what I meant by my family helps. They live with us. And our plan was to build a house here and run the business out of the backyard. I have no intentions of expanding. I'm very comfortable where I'm at. Yeah, I guess that's it.
I guess one of my questions would be for you, would there be any outside storage? There's things that happen out here in Wright County that you have no idea what's happening inside the sheds. Is this something, you've said there's no noise that will get outside the walls. Are you gonna be storing any jugs of chemicals outside? Will you have an outdoor contained area? I mean, or will this be like a shed that you're gonna really not know anything's going on inside of it?
Yeah, it's just gonna look like an outbuilding, like a garage. There's no outside storage. I need no signage. There's gonna be no lights or anything disruptive.
So everything will be contained inside of that building, and any liquids that would spill or come out will be on concrete. There won't be any drains it can get to?
Yes, sir.
Or anything like that it can escape into the groundwater?
Correct.
Okay. Pat, did you have something?
I'd like to understand more of what your business actually is and what would be inside of the building. I'm not a CNC machinist, and I don't have basically any idea what this is, and I want to understand the scale of it. From the sounds of it, it's you have a couple of kids who you try and keep gainfully employed from time to time. Maybe there's a spouse in there, so we're talking about 4 people going from the house over to the shed to do some work, and you go in, and what do you see? You see 15-foot tall 10-foot-long machines, or you see a little CNC lathe machine? What's in there?
You see 2 CNC mills and a small robot that's used for proof of concept. Because everything we make it's called end-of-arm tooling, so it'd be a robotic arm, just a little guy. And then we build the tooling, which is the fingers, that are custom-made to pick up a customer's part for moving their products around their facility. So we would look at their part, decide how to design it, come up with a concept. Sometimes we would 3D print a set of plastic fingers to just show what we're thinking. And eventually those fingers would be made out of aluminum or plastic or steel. It's very little machining. We can put it in the robot and actually move their part around and take a video to show them. So we got two CNC mills and a miniature little robot.
Talk to me about the space for the businesses in currently. You're looking at I think it's a 40 by 50 shed that you're talking about building. What sort of space are you in right now?
Right now we're in a 3,000 square foot building that we're probably using half of it. The other half is used for the robotics team for Delano High School.
In an industrial park or something?
It's about a mile from our house, yeah.
That's it, thanks.
Well, Mr. Chair, after hearing the business and how it's going to operate, I know that CNC is large in nature and small in nature. I know it's a broad spectrum from what I know about, limited of what I know about it. And it sounds like yours is very small in nature.
Very small.
And it's a controlled environment, always has to be heated.
Right.
Yep. I think that with a 2,000 square foot building, it's not going to be any different than a garage with a motorcycle in it. So I don't see any problem in the neighborhood. No signage, no in and out traffic constantly. So I think it would be a good fit.
I guess I have a question. What are the quantities of parts that you'll be putting out? Will you be putting out 5,000 a week, 10,000 a week? Are you putting out 100? I mean, what type of volumes of materials will come in and out of there?
So I would pick up, a typical job would be a set of fingers. There could be 9 of them on a robot, and they're literally the size of a human hand, the fingers are. So I would pick that up, sawed up little pieces after I design and do the CAD work, which is 2/3 of the time. And then there's a setup, very little cutting of them to finish them to size. And then they go out. I could do a couple jobs like that a week.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question. So is that a 20-minute job and you're doing hundreds of those, or is that
It's-
taking you a couple of weeks to do that?
It could take 2 days, 3 days to do an order like that. It's a lot of setup and very little cutting, so to speak.
So, yeah, we're not shipping in UPS coming in with 10, 20 boxes
No, sir.
every day or going in or out. And, as far as rural goes, Prime and UPS and Speedy, FedEx are out in the rural areas every day at multiple houses.
There's more
so-
Amazon deliveries probably. Now, we're not trying to impact anybody. You wouldn't even know.
Any other questions, concerns?
Well, it appears to me, Mr. Chair, that this is a rather low-impact endeavor. Particularly interesting as I find that the water that you use is all recycled. Now, does that water have to be cleaned on occasion, drained in fresh water, or is it kind of stays in the loop?
It stays in the loop.
Okay, same thing with the coolant, the lubricant coolant?
Yes,
Stays in the loop.
it's a closed system, yeah.
Okay. And then I think there's another comment from the public about the byproduct or shavings. What happens to that?
Yeah, so when you're machine apart, the chips that come off there are dumped into a garbage can that when it gets full, we haul it to the recycling center.
And how much volume would that be in a matter of a few weeks or a month? Does it mean several garbage cans or dumpster size or what?
Yeah, it could be a can a week on a busy week. Could be a month before a can gets full.
Sure. Okay. And then the 3 phases are already there, and you say is it buried now, or it will be buried
It
from
would
the
be
mainland?
buried, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Deliveries, well, I agree with the chairman that we see FedEx and Amazon all over the roads here today. So I don't see any drastic change in the neighborhood from that, nor drastic change in the neighborhood using water. You look at all the homes that are just west of here. I mean, it's incredible in a number of homes there. So I think adding this one home, the residents and possibly use in the water use in the shed is minimal impact in my view. So that should cover, and you have no employees coming in.
No, no, sir.
You make your kids walk to the shed, or they have a UTV
Yep.
causing dust and?
They're working on their CAD designing.
Okay. And what is a F2 factory? What is that?
I have no idea.
Okay. I don't either. Okay, well, I think that's all I've got. My main point here, Mr. Chair, is it appears to be low impact.
I agree.
Do you have separate garbage service for this business? I'm still trying to get a sense of the scale of what this is. You get a can of the shavings a week or a month.
Yeah, and those are recycled.
Yeah, right, but like daily production of waste and recycling. Do you have a business account that the Randy's is going to come and pick up separate? Or is this so little that it gets thrown in with the household waste?
Yeah, the household waste.
Not even a separate, okay.
I create more recycling of boxes than waste.
If you wanted to intensify the use from what you're describing to something more intense, could you accomplish that within this building?
I would have to move into a more industrial, because you would have the truck traffic and more of those problems.
Okay, thanks.
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Before I do that, in your description of your business, you said hours of operation 8 to 4?
Correct.
And is that 5 days a week?
Pretty much, yeah.
So if we would say Monday to Friday for hours of operation, would that work?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve an interim use permit for a home extended business for a CNC machining and tooling service in accordance with the discussion plans and description held on file with the following conditions. Number 1, hours of operation would be 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Number 2, no more than 1 employee in addition to the owner, operator, and family members residing at the homestead. Number 3, no outdoor storage is allowed, and all business-related items must be contained within the 2,000 square foot pole building. 4, the operator must properly dispose of or recycle all waste from the business. 5, satisfactory building final inspection is required for the pole building before business operations may commence. 6, the single-family dwelling must be completed and the property must be homesteaded before business operations may commence. 7, township to review in 1 year with subsequent reviews at an interval established by the township. Number 8, this permit shall expire upon transfer of the property, termination of any lease agreement, or change in business ownership or operations.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. I'd like to bring up for discussion on your hours of operation. How do we define hours of operation? This is a shed on a man's piece of property. And if when you're saying from 8 to 5, Saturday I want to go out to the shed. I may or may not. Are you saying you have to lock the door at 8 to 5 and he's not allowed in his shed from the other hours? How do we, I mean, we're putting these hours in there. It's impossible for the county to police your, I mean, I have a shed on my place. I do all kinds of stuff in there.
I was thinking the same.
So is that personal or business related?
All personal.
So I have a store on my property. If I go
But
out,
you're permitted.
if I go out there at 9 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
not turning the lights on, it's not open to the public, but I go out there at 9 o'clock at night because I want to go on the computer, for my own personal use. There's a lot of, I think if the operations are going to be, or if they're in the building beyond 4 o'clock, which he's saying, we're talking about the operations of the business he's described as a CNC business.
Yep.
I don't see, if he's going to go out there at 8 o'clock tonight to clean the floor, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Chair, what my question is how, it sounds like it's so, like, not even visual from the road as to if he is working or not. So how does the county even say if he's working 8 to 4? I mean, it sounds like nobody's gonna see these people do their work. So it seems like it would be very hard to
Police.
police.
Or monitor.
I mean, do we have to have hours of operation on?
Barry?
You looking for me to respond?
Yes.
So I didn't write what is in the ordinance, I just am charged with enforcing it. So in 155.103J, working hours shall be set by the planning commission. What exactly that means is to be set by the planning commission. That way, in the staff report, that's why that condition is there in red, extremely vague, because it just says you shall set it. The applicant in this case has said, this is generally when we're going to operate. It's up to the commission then to set the hours of operation as dictated in the ordinance. Actually, council and I had this exact same discussion this afternoon because the same type of thing comes up. I'm a little bit behind on my work. The Vikings stink, so I don't want to watch a game. I'm going to go out and work on my laptop and work on a product.
Yeah.
By definition of the hours of operation, that could potentially be a violation of that condition. Am I going to know? Well, I don't know. It depends upon how I come to know about it. Somebody calls me. Somebody says, well, he's in his shed. Well, the shed could also have some, as you mentioned, personal things in there that he wants to go and work with. So I can't say he's not doing it. I'm not going to say it's an unenforceable condition, but it is a extremely difficult condition depending upon the type of operation to verify and work around. But it is in the ordinance. It says working hours shall be set by the planning commission.
Chair. So could we say working hours could be 7 days a week from sun up to sundown? I mean, literally.
But that doesn't solve anything. If he's can't sleep and he wants to go out, well, it's the same thing. It's a technical
Right.
violation of the permit.
I mean, it's not going to be enforceable at all.
Well, it's not going to be enforceable, but also I don't think that this commission is intending to prevent somebody from going out if they have a stroke of genius at 2 a.m. and typing it into the computer.
Right.
I don't think it matters what we say for business hours. I think more important would be imposing hours, I think, is more focused on keeping people from coming in and out of a property, right? This is not a retail store. Correct. The question that I would have to try and further limit it is in the rules and definitions for a home extended occupation, it has the no more than one employee in addition to the family living at the homestead language. Can we modify that and say no employees who are not living there? As long as that's modifiable, then I think you put whatever hours in there that you want. Say no employees who don't live there, so we don't have an issue of cars rolling in with their headlights at 3 a.m. because he's running his business again.
I'm sorry, but I just have to bring it up. But one of the kids is a sophomore. He could be doing that and rolling in at 3 a.m. because he had a stroke of genius.
Not because he had a stroke of genius.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
Mr. Malberg, I think about these things all the time, and believe me, we have to deal. I deal with exactly what he's talking about, because all of a sudden my granddaughter will say, "Oh, I need something from the store. I won't bother anybody. I'll just drive up and 10 o'clock at night and get something out of the store." Well, is that a violation of my CUP? Or is it being nitpicked? I think when we come to hours of operations, our biggest concern is disruption in the neighborhood. You know, this is a home extended business. It's in a residential area. And I think hours of operation are important because it is a disruption in the neighborhood. When it comes to, say, a truck repair shop, because we have some of those that are home extended businesses. And if they've got trucks coming in through a neighborhood at 12 o'clock at night, Barry's going to hear about it, I bet. Most likely. It's just a totally different scenario. And I think in this scenario, when you set the business hours and 5 years down the road, his sons are gone from home, and he maybe wants to invoke that one employee, you know, that's in the ordinance, then the hours are set when that employee can come in and out.
That's a good point. Okay, I'll back up.
I'm not concerned about enforcement. I'm more concerned about, you know, the future of the business, and maybe that's something that should stay in there for that reason. And that's basically what he's saying in his request too, is 8 to 4.
Okay.
That's why I made the comment. I asked him if Monday through Friday was good. If it isn't, Monday through Saturday. I don't know.
I'm okay with that now. That makes sense.
We have a motion, so.
In a second.
In a second.
Yeah, the other piece I have for discussion on it is, can we eliminate the placement of a commercial sign? The ordinance says a sign shall be permitted no greater than 35 square feet or something like that. Can we modify that so that a neighbor isn't looking at a commercial sign in the event that he gets up one day and decides, I want to put a sign out there, even though my business derives no benefit from it?
Mr. Chair and Member Malberg, maybe you want to hear a nice dissertation about the First Amendment here today, but no, I would not recommend that this commission do that. We have a sign ordinance that completely complies with the time, place, and manner restrictions articulated by the United States Supreme Court. I do not want us to be limiting one particular property owner on their First Amendment rights in Wright County simply because of a fear that something that they put on their sign may be injurious. So we don't regulate what people put on their signs, we only regulate the size. And if he meets the definition of our ordinance for a CUP, I believe he should be permitted to have that size sign if that is what he would like to have.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same way. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 9 tonight on the agenda is Kathleen Osborne. you want to give your name for the record, and we'll get started.
Sure. My name is Kathy Osborne. I work for LRS of Minnesota. And we are the owner of the Rolling Hills landfill. And that address is 175 County Road 37 Northeast.
I'm Dale Gopinski. I'm the operator at the landfill. My address is Maple Lake, 5068 County Road 37 Northwest.
All right, thank you. Barry, when you are ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this request is an extension of the clay borrow pit at the Rolling Hills landfill. As mentioned, site now owned by LRS of Minnesota. We approved the original clay borrow pit in 2013, and then have extended it in 2017, 2019, and 2022. This is another request for that. The landfill is going through the final cover stage, and they're looking at renewing it in case they need material for erosion control or erosion replacement on that final cover. The request itself didn't have a specific requested timeline for that. With the new ordinance that we have in place, the maximum part of that would be 10 years. In this particular case, the township, which did submit their recommendation for approval, is requesting a 5-year time frame. We did receive one neighborhood response requesting denial of the request.
That's right. Thank you, Barry. Anything you would like to add to that?
One comment is that we have closed the landfill. The final cover construction was completed around the first week or so of December. And so therefore, this small borrow area is really only needed if we have small erosion repairs that might have to be done on the landfill. If anything larger would happen to happen, we'd have to bring in soil and have to hire a contractor. This would only be if Dale or other maintenance material, people on the site would need a small amount of material to fix some erosion rills or something that might be on the cover.
Okay. There's no start. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this? Anybody from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring it back up here. Does the commission have any other questions? Craig?
If I could, Ms. Osborne, I'm just wondering, you indicated you've met final cover in early December, correct? Are you now within the post-closure 30-year timeframe with the MPCA?
Soon. So we're just finishing up the construction, or that got done. The engineer is finishing up the documentation report. And we'll be submitting that hopefully in this month, January. Okay. And then once they accept the documentation report, then we would go through the process of updating the deed for the property. And then the state we would still then start over with the post-closure or start post-closure timeline. And then there's financial assurance that's set aside by the company for the facility for not only post-closure care, which is groundwater monitoring, facility maintenance, but also contingency actions if there are any repairs that need to be done that are bigger than just normal maintenance. And then our closure bond will get completed or closed since we'll be done with that work.
Okay. And I'm going to say it's been a while since I've driven by the landfill site, but there used to be a large erosion area, I would say on the new expanded area. And maybe Mr. Chapinski?
Yep.
Chapinski. You remember it. I think it was kind of a big gully where it seemed like the engineering kind of made it, all the water kind of come in. Has that area been corrected for erosion, or is that the area you're mainly looking at?
That's where we fixed that in, as soon as LRS bought us.
Oh.
That erosion area there. Yeah, that all got fixed in, I think it was 2022 we got that all fixed.
Okay. I just remember Mr. Newan always saying that was the bane of his existence.
Yeah.
I think that erosion
Yeah.
area, so.
Yeah, no, that all got resolved, so.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions, concerns? Pat?
So I talked with the only person that we got a response from, with Jeannie and
David.
Jeannie and David, and help them understand, hopefully, what the request was for, because there's always that Why, if it's closed, why do we need it? If it's closed, why do we need it? And I'm just looking at the aerial right now. We got the closed landfill on the west side. That just goes into a static state from now until, I don't know, eternity, right? The other part of the property, are there any current CUPs or other uses for that? You know, the property that's just east of the recycling center. I don't know how many acres it is. And Dale, you probably hay it.
Yeah, I do.
Are there any current permissions in place for that, or plans in place for what happens? I'm curious, having looked at it twice a day for.
We actually there's actually water monitoring wells on all around the whole property. You know, we've got up gradient, down gradient wells, and then we've also got monitoring wells because the water kind of flows that way. So I really have no idea what they're gonna do with the property, but as far as I know,
So you're talking about this,
yeah, that 48.
Right along 37 there.
Yeah.
yeah, and as far as I know,
There's
unless we can
monitoring.
sell it, but we'd have to have an easement on it to have access.
There's monitoring wells right down
There-
in here.
Are the monitoring wells there back in the trees?
No, they're right out in that field, Pat,
Are they?
down in the corner,
Okay.
down in that corner.
So you'd keep it, would it be subject to the deed restriction that you got to file?
I believe that the entire property you'd have to say where the landfill is, but whatever property is under our jurisdiction would go under that.
So that I can talk with Jeannie about it. Would that, I don't know how many acres that is. Would that property support an independent operation? Or is there no future beneficial use other than monitoring?
Are you asking
as
if
a waste
LRS plans
facility?
on using any of the property in the future?
Sure, that's probably a better way of asking it.
So what we've presented to the township is that we would like to have the opportunity in the future to potentially use it as, because there's some buildings on there. We haven't decided what it would be. It would have to meet all local requirements, state requirements. You know, whether we have some sort of shop, like a machine shop, or if we have storage out there, we'd have to ask and go through the process. We do not have anything planned at this point. We were just, you know, LRS got this property as part of a greater change of properties with another larger acquisition. And so this is a gift
Yeah.
that will continue to give
Yeah.
or not give. There'll be no giving because there's no basically money coming from the landfill anymore. We closed it early. We closed it by leaving airspace there. And LRS decided to do that because of the local climate and what they wanted and not wanted to be used there. But at some point, LRS would like to have at least the ability or the opportunity to bring forth something. Right now, we have nothing in the works, but whatever it might be would have to be something within our business, and it would have to meet all regulations that would be at the time. And I would think we would continue to farm the land over to the east, just because that's currently what we have an agreement to do. If that was to get sold, there'd have to be an easement on it, so we'd have access to the groundwater monitoring wells. But same thing, you'd have to go forward and apply for whatever use might be there.
There's actually monitoring wells out in the woods too, Pat, you know, so it's, I mean, they do an extensive amount of monitoring.
It's good enough for me, Mr. Chair.
Great. Do we have any other questions, concerns for the applicants? If not, is somebody ready to make a motion?
I make a motion.
Pat?
Approve an interim use permit to allow continued mining in the borrow pit for material used as needed for future minor repairs on the final cover at the landfill according to the narrative and plan submitted with the following conditions. Permit to expire December 31st, 2029. 2, the finished slope of the restoration be no greater than 23%. 3, all other requirements of the original permit be met. 4, all mining and restoration must be completed by the expiration date, and the trees planted for a buffer be no less than 4 feet in height.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? There's no other discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same way. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to MBE. That is the next on the agenda. We had a site inspection. All public comments have been closed. So if you want to get us started, Barry, when you're ready.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Let me get back to my presentation here.
If you guys want to just have a seat, if we need you, we'll ask you to come up. If you want to just have a seat right there in the front. All public comments and everything has been closed.
Quite honestly, Mr. Chairman, you know, this is a known item. We talked about it at length at the last hearing, received all the public comment. Since that time, as per the direction of Commissioner Malberg, the executive summary for the MnDOT study was brought into the record and was included in your packet, just the executive summary of it. As mentioned, we did a site inspection, no other comments were allowed to be received. This is now in the Planning Commission's court to discuss which way you're looking at going with it. I guess from a staff perspective, I don't have anything to add other than just that type of framework. The rest is all on the commission to decide what you want to do.
Okay. So that brings it back here to this board. And I guess, who would like to start? The comments at one. I guess I'll bring up, I know we talked a lot about the traffic. We've looked at the traffic out there, and the road is extremely busy. I guess where I'm working on trying to understand is what we as a board up here have done, what we've done tonight and haven't done, is in the planning portion of it and the zoning. We have, in that area, we have S2, we have ag res, all along that area. And I guess the point I'm asking this board to help me with is, where do we draw that line? We have a gravel pit within this picture right to the north and west, but that is all in ag land, which this is ag land, but in the zoning, in the planning and zoning, in the plan for that area, it's for ag res. The property to the north and the west is in ag. We just had a discussion tonight about ag land and rezoning it to put a house on. We denied it. This area is an area that the township has designated for ag res and for growth. As far as a gravel pit goes, I know they can do a good business as a gravel pit. That's not my challenge. My challenge is what we have done in the allowing homes to be built, rezoning to happen, and then put a gravel pit amongst it. That's new. This isn't a renewal like we just got done with. This is a new pit, a new operation. And I know we talk about building homes on top of gravel. We build homes on top of ag land. Gravel is important. Soybeans and corn are important. Apples are important. It feeds America, you know, so I have a hard time, you know, saying, well, you're building houses on top of a gravel. We have gravel throughout Wright County. I'm stuck on, for me, what we have done as planning and zoning and allowed these developments. This particular exact property, in 19, I think was the year, it was all a farm. We rezoned it and put 2 10-acre lots on the other end. We questioned the owner at that time about gravel. He said at that time, too much shale. Nobody wants it for gravel. So we rezoned it. We went under the advice of the owner and rezoned it. now we want to put a gravel pit in the middle of it. I guess that's my soapbox. Either talk me off of it, or that's my thought.
Well, Mr. Chair, I guess I can start.
Okay.
I guess the uniqueness of this property is that it's the only piece of land that's in the land use plan for commercial, for future use. And on the other side of this land, it's zoned ag residential. I'm struggling with that part of it too. I also struggle with some of the reports I read. I struggle with the fact that in Buffalo Township's comments, they referred to the Dorsey report, but not the EAW report. Well, the EAW report was actually requested by one of the apple orchard owners, from what I read on the record. And so that was done, and the 4 major concerns were addressed in the EAW report. I don't think that those concerns are going to be an issue. If I were going to have any issue with it, it would be not with the gravel mining operation. Gravel mining operations are an interim use. They do not follow the land anymore. They follow the permit or the user. And this, I know this user is very, very conscientious of his neighbors. He always has been, and he always will be. The land, I'm confident the land will be restored. If the proper guidelines are followed, dust will be controlled. When I read the EAW report on silica dust, in the EAW report, it said that the silica dust was found mainly in the southeastern part of Minnesota, not in this area up here at all. However, it could be a problem with crushing of concrete. That's where you would create some of the silica dust that they're referring to. I struggle with, I know that there's a volume of protest against this, a volume of the township's desire for it not to happen. I can really feel for them as township officials as to what they're dealing with. So I struggle with that. But as far as the operation itself goes, I don't think the impact on traffic is going to be any worse than it is right now. After looking...
Quiet, please.
After looking at the traffic that comes in and out of that intersection right now, when you have the right-of-way in the morning and in the evening, this is where the traffic they say was going to be the worst, between 7 and 8 a.m. And that's just because of the trucks going in and out, and after that it would be reduced. I'm confident that the dust issue will be taken care of promptly if we as a board set the berm requirements high enough. I think that the noise will be taken care of as well. I believe in the EAW report they're recommending, was it 12 feet below for operating, and that included the face of the pit. And we were talking about, or in the recommendations, they were referring to as high as 8-foot berms. And I think the applicant said they could do that. That's where I stand right now on it. I don't think that this is going to be a real problem with the community at this point. So that's just the way I view it right now, and we deal with a lot of gravel pits in this area. We do, and some of them are very active and very large. And this is 7.5 acres. And if things don't go well with it, when that's done, if that's all they're allowed to mine, and things don't go well, then it's done. It can be denied the next time.
Okay.
Chairman, my question is it not zoned commercial?
No.
What is it zoned?
Ag.
Ag.
It's in the land use plan for commercial.
For commercial.
It's in, right now it's zoned ag, and that's why it is allowed.
Okay, but when you were talking about zoning,
Yep.
it's zoned commercial
It's in the land use plan for
commercial.
commercial, for the future.
for the future. So my thought is at some point, it could be a convenience store. So cars going in and out and a major, so the people, you're concerned about, the land use plan, but that could be a potentially very busy spot, correct?
Correct.
And I know it's a contentious item, but I feel like if somebody would find gold or oil in that spot, we would grab it. And that's basically what was found. So the owner that had it prior, I'm not sure why, who tested it, but I just feel like, I think with the certain, lanes being addressed, prior to mining that, I think that would alleviate the traffic. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, this is a tough one, as most are. I usually put together pros and cons, which would direct which way we vote up here. So in any event, on the positive side, what I see is that, first of all, the zoning. It is zoned ag. Gravel pits are allowed in the ag district. I think most of the concerns raised by the public could ultimately be mitigated. And folks, I think there will always be a need for gravel. I've got it in my house. I bet you anything, every one of you have some sort of gravel, whether it be concrete, cement blocks, patio blocks, whatever. I look at Hanover Sand and Gravel, right on County Road 19, just north of, what is it, the fire station? I mean, they've got huge piles of stockpile of mineral there. I go there for my gravel. If I need a little bit, or river rock stone, I'll go there. My daughter lives in St. Michael, on 241 in a townhome. I went to visit her, I think it was over Christmas, and I'm looking across the street, and I had known that there was some activity just to the east of the townhomes, north of 241. It's about a 30-acre piece. There were two huge multi-story piles of mineral, or granite, or granular there, I should say. And I'm wondering, okay, we're deliberating up here on a potential site on 50th Street and Highway 25. I'm scratching my head. I'm thinking, how on earth could something like this happen with multiple homes, whether they be townhomes or single family? Townhomes to the west, single families to the north, an industrial area to the east, or JB Meats is. And I'm thinking, geez, how'd that happen? So I called an old acquaintance of mine, Mark Weigel, Weigel is the, I think he's the director of the Economic Development Authority in St. Michael. And I says, Mark, you know, we're kind of struggling here at the county with this potential pit, and there's a lot of residences around, and how did you guys ever get by with that? Well, the fact is that it's a big operation. The EDA did own that property, St. Michael EDA, so they bid it out for site prep. So basically, it's a huge, what I might term, it's a huge gravel pit that resulted from the effort to make it presentable for building site. So anyway, a great distinction, of course, in that respect from what we're looking here, because I think in St. Michael, they've got a 2-year window to get in and get out. So anyway, that's one thing I had investigated. Another thing is that testimony that MBE had provided, I believe it was last month or so, they had a pit, I think it was Blaine, where you mined right up to the edge of the residences along there. I don't know, maybe certain things were mitigated to allow something like that, or what? And I don't know if I can ask the applicant anymore to expound on that. I think the public comment is closed. What I know of MBE, they're a darn good operator. I know they have one down in Watertown, and there are some issues, and Mr. Perry directly got on top of those issues and got it resolved. I tell you what, folks, if there's anybody that I would want as a neighbor digging or mining gravel next to me, it would be this company right here. I've heard testimony from the public that this community is growing. They want it to grow. Well, what do you need? What is an element of that growth that you need? Gravel. Unless I'm mistaken, they're still using gravel in concrete products. Now on the downside, why one should cast your vote against this? Well, first of all, the township government is closest to the residents, and the residents have spoken profoundly at length about this. And incidentally, this obviously, as we all know, this came up before this board a couple of years back to allow time for an EAW to be performed. But the township position still stands. They're opposed. I have a concern with safety. I think any traffic that you add, whether it's from what could be a commercial endeavor on that corner to a gravel pit, it's going to increase traffic. It's going to thereby affect safety. As it sits right now, that's a bad intersection. I hate it. I hated coming up here to the government center when this road out here was detoured. It was at night. I wanted to make a left turn, wondering if somebody's going to smack into me, or if that guy ahead of me is going to make a left turn about the same time I am. So I just hate that intersection. It reminds me of another intersection on County Road 35 east of Buffalo. I hate that one, but they finally put 4-way stop signs there. I almost bought the farm on that intersection one time, and I'll never forget it. And I think there's possible health risks. Every time we hear about a gravel pit, we're talking noise, we're talking dust, we're talking silica sand. We've heard all of that before, and perhaps there's something to it. And granted, the residents who are protesting this might go out and hire somebody to have them do a study. We might have a study done that counters all that. So where is the truth? Where is the truth? In that respect, I think a person would probably err on the side of there is potentially a health risk there. I'm looking at the well-being of the residents. I live out in the country too here in Rockford Township. I hear these dirt bikes. Neighbor's got a dirt track. Another guy's got snowmobiles, and there's shooting, which is fine with me. I don't care. We're out in the country. That's what we're supposed to be doing. It doesn't bother me that much. But I know of a pit elsewhere in the county where people live on a lake that's probably a mile or two away. They've been living with this for 40 years, and they're sick of it, and I really, really sympathize with them in that regard. So the well-being of the neighbors is of great concern. The timing might be premature on this, because of the lack of improvements on the intersection. And tell you what, either way, I vote or cast my vote here, Mr. Chair. It'll be regrettable and with great reluctance, because I could go either way on this one. So, but I must also ask for your indulgence here, and I'd like to direct this to the public. A point was brought up here just now that there could very well be a commercial enterprise at that intersection. If someone came in and said, okay, well, your land use plan here says it's commercial, I'm going to apply for it. Then they'll probably give us a concept, and then, of course, we'll have to address the intersection woes. We'll have to address, and you guys will be impacted. Okay, well, how are you going to prepare the site? Are you going to dig it down like they did over in St. Michael? Okay, what are you going to get with that? You're going to get a gravel pit. Okay, and then once it's all built, I'm going to hear stories about, or before, we're going to hear stories, well, exhaust gases and, the school buses, and we're going to hear the same thing, folks. So what I'm saying is be careful what you ask for. You might get it. And just to reiterate, this is a permitted use. It's an ag land. However, since it's ag, there are other uses that are allowed without any permits. It's called a permitted use. You can have ag land, just like it is now, crops, making dust when they're cultivating in the spring, making dust perhaps when they're harvesting in the fall, making dust when they dig it up in the fall. Okay, you're going to have dust, just as it is now. Ag. Okay, what else can you do in this here? Spread manure. Why can't a farmer come in there and spread manure? He'd have to probably ask for a permit here from the feedlot representative at the county, but that's a potential for this property. Okay, you can have livestock, feedlots, hog operations, cattle operations. Public recreation, what does that mean now? Public recreation is allowed in this. And incidentally, if I'm speaking out of school here, Mr. Reinberger, you just tell me, but I took this right out of the ordinance here this afternoon. Public recreation, what's that mean? A bunch of dirt bikes with these little jumpy things where they're making noise and causing dust? Possibility. Okay? Solar energy fields. That's another one where people come in and say, well, I don't want that. I don't think there could be any better neighbor than a solar field. They don't make garbage, they don't make dust, they don't make noise. Okay, under that same ag classification, you need a conditional use for land reclamation. I don't know what precisely that might entail, but there you go. Conditional use for feedlots in excess of 500 animal units. Right now, an individual, I think, could do 500 animal units on that ag piece of property right there.
I believe it says not in excess as a permitted use.
Okay, all right, let's move on then. Sewage treatment plants. Okay, City of Buffalo, say, okay, yeah, we're moving up there. Excuse me, sir, just indulge me here, I'm almost done. So, okay, sewage treatment plants, possibility with a conditional use permit. Okay, what's permitted under the interim conditional use permit? Dog kennels, another problem for us up here. A non-commercial contractor's yard. Retreat center, what's that? Who knows? Solar energy systems, public schools, seasonal storage, treatment and recovery facility. Okay, so again, all of those are possibilities, including a gravel pit. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Pat, do you want to add anything?
Yeah. Where I land on this, where I spent most of my thought and focus last time was with Mr. Swing. And when Mr. Swing agreed that as it stands right now, the intersection, in the absence of improvements that in my view this record does not show, are a must. And so I don't have the ability to, I guess maybe view this project in light of those all being in place at the time when this thing commences operation. I went back and reread the minutes, and Mr. Swing, I thought was sort of clear that I think we're premature on this request. I think our record has a hole in it from a traffic safety perspective in connection with that. I think that the safety concerns are part of the first sentence of what we're supposed to look at when we're looking under 155.031, right? It's, if we're going to grant this, we got to look at the effect of the proposed use upon the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of occupants of surrounding lands. So my traffic safety concerns are not mitigated on our present record. I also think, Ken, you were talking about the need for gravel. And while I agree that that's important from a countywide perspective, I think that's too broad a view for a land use decision, which is more narrowly focused to the lands around it, the designations that have been made to the land historically, the future designations that are out there. I don't think we can justify the fact that gravel is super valuable. It's gold. I don't think we can use that to say we're going to open up gravel pits everywhere. I don't think that this location, which is across the street from a church facility that has its programming there, that is this near to existing residential uses, that is this near to property that, since I've been on this board, and I'm one of the most junior members on this board, we rezoned, right? We put new lots out there, rural residential lots. One of them was built on. I don't think that this move to a gravel pit that in the first phase will be smallish and in the first phase will be short. But what we're really looking at, and I think Mr. Perry talked about it last time, was the plan here would be to extract the gravel in phases as you go along. And I don't think that opening up a potentially decades-long gravel pit in this neighborhood is consistent with good planning decisions. I don't think it's consistent with promoting the health, safety, morals, and welfare of the surrounding lands. I go then to B2. I don't skip, I mean, I try to address B1 in what I just said. And you can go through the land use plan and you can pick out things that support what you say and don't support what you say. It's cherry pickable that way, which makes these decisions particularly difficult. The land use plan, our guidance is to have a mind toward precedent, to not be overcome by the emotions of a particular case. We can't have simple landowner desires overcome us on the one hand. We can't have mere opposition from neighboring uses, neighboring owners overwhelm us on the other hand. But I go to whether, under B2 then, whether the interim use will not be. I have to find that it will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for purposes already permitted. I can't, on this record, agree with a statement that this will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property. I think there's discussion of mitigation in the EAW, which is an environmental document. It is not the document that makes the decision for us. If it were so simple, our jobs would be much easier. It tells us there's a bunch of things that you can do. And still, from where I sit, having the effects that we will have, even after some mitigation, even assuming Mr. Perry is a wonderful operator, you're still going to have the effects of a gravel pit operating a few hundred feet from a church, a few hundred feet from homes in all directions. So I can't personally make that affirmative finding that it won't be injurious. Right? The standard, even if it said it will not be materially injurious, it would be a different standard. Our standard is will not be injurious. That's where I'd put my focus on. I'm not trying to convince anybody one way or the other. It's a hard question. These are always hard questions. But to me, the decision is going to be that I can't make the affirmative findings that are required under 155.031, even with the proposed mitigation, which I've reviewed.
Okay. And along with, I guess when I asked, but nobody has really been able to help me with, and could you put up the land use plan, Barry, what the future land use plan is?
Let's see where I gotta go here.
And I guess this is the portion where I guess I was asking the question, and along with a lot of what Pat is saying, is in our land use plan, it's for ag-res. That whole area, it's not all rezoned yet, and this is agricultural land, so yes, a gravel pit fits in it. But in the plan, it's not. And here not that long ago, and I think, Mr. Bravender, you sat on the board of the gravel moratorium. And we used to be able to put a gravel pit in ag-res. That's no longer correct. Is that correct, Barry?
Yes.
So I mean, the only way you can have a gravel pit now is it's gotta be an ag land. And this whole area is planned in Buffalo Township, like we've talked so many times up here on this board, how the townships have worked so hard to say where they want growth. You talked about where you want Cocato's Township's growth to go in the future. This is all slated for future growth of ag-res. And again, Mr. Perry says in phases. I've caught on to that too. And we've sat up here with, I don't know how many gravel pit operators saying, well, will you be done in 2 years? Will you be done in 5 years? And everyone gives us the same answer. Depends on the need. Depends on how fast, or if we get the bid, or if it's a big house, whatever. Nobody will say, yes, it'll be done. They won't give us that answer. And I know the way our interns are set up, it's done at 10 years, but that's phase one. It's 30-some acres. There's gonna be phase two, phase three, phase four. And this is laid out for ag res. I know this is commercial, that's where they put a commercial site, but it's ag res all the way around it. And it's not allowed in ag residential. So I guess that's where I'm struggling with it. As far as a gravel pit operation, dust, all of those things, I get it. You can do it right. It can be done correctly. Traffic can be mitigated. I work in Sherburne County, try to get a detasseling machine across Highway 10 on 4th of July. It's no fun, but it can be done. You gotta be patient. People slow down. I mean, they do. Traffic is there. I mean, we've got reports of what they'll do for traffic and turn lanes and those things. But for me, it's the planning. We sit on this board, we rezone things, we look at the map, it's in the plan, we rezone it. It's in the plan for ag res, it's not in the plan for gravel pit. I guess that's where I'm looking at the plan, you know, so help me. I'm like you can, I can go both ways, but help me.
Mr. Chair, just a technical comment here. You said it's in the plan for ag res. No, it's in the plan for commercial.
All the way around it is for
yeah.
ag residential.
Right.
Everything around it is for homes.
Correct. But you were talking specifically about this piece. You said, no,
That's
it's going to be a gravel pit. No. So that's where I'm hoping that my correction is of assistance.
And, you know, along with some of the things that Pat talked about too, I have a hard time answering those questions when everything around it is to be zoned in the plan ag res. We have S2 in the area. How will it not potentially affect the area? I have a hard time answering number 2 also, or number 3. So.
Mr. Chair, when you talk about, you're looking at the planning as I mean, a hurdle that you're trying to get around. If I understand you right, what you're saying is that surrounding properties have been planned for.
Correct.
Ag res.
Correct.
So are you saying then that your view, if you go this way, is that a gravel pit use, this gravel pit application that's before us, which they can absolutely make, they just have to hit the standards that are there, that it's inconsistent with that planning concept that you're talking about because of the effects that it will have on the surrounding lands, which have all been designated as ag res in the future?
Said much better than I.
So is it, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'm trying to understand it a little bit better. Is that tied, could you tie that to the B3? Or I guess I'm at, is that a B1 issue for you, where it's whether the use is in conformance with the plan and the ordinances, or is it a B3 issue, which is that the establishment of the interim use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area, or is it both? Because to me, whatever decision we make, whether it's the majority is for or against, we need to give good direction. The winning side, if there's a winner here, needs to give good direction to council to have justifiable findings.
For me, it's number 3.
3, okay.
That is the one that I am probably having. Because with number 1, the way it's zoned today, it's ag. It's allowed in ag and net. But when you come into number 3, and the establishment enters use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant properties. In our plan, it's for ag res.
Right, and to be clear, when you say it's allowed under the current zoning, there's the potential that it's allowed.
Yes.
Provided that it meets the standards that the task force or committee, whatever name was given to to that group, provided that it meets that.
Correct.
I don't know, I'm tossed.
Well, do we have any other comments, decisions? How does the board want to go? Is anybody willing to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll do it. Public hearing's already closed, correct?
Correct.
I would move that legal counsel proceed with preparing findings consistent with denial based on the discussion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Motion made and seconded. Do we have any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I could,
Yes.
I'm wondering if the Planning Commission is interested in asking Mr. Perry and MB if they're interested in withdrawing in light of the discussion to date or not. I mean, the public hearing has been closed, but I think that would be a fair question to ask if the Planning Commission wanted to offer it.
Can I, from a timing perspective, all we have right now is a motion and a second. And I don't think sometimes on these, it's clear where things are going. And maybe it's clearer to other people than it is to me right now, but the motion is for drafting findings that we would look at and adopt a revised version by the time next meeting rolls around. Are we able to give, if the chair decides to offer that, are we not able to let them see what our vote has been? Because
Our standard procedure that we have for the Planning Commission is on a CUP and IUP when findings are directed to be drafted and the motion or vote is approved in the affirmative, that the applicant at that point in time no longer has the ability to withdraw. That's different for zoning. Zoning issues are different because they go to the county board. The county board does not have that same restriction in their policies, but this body does.
Okay. And I'm just remembering, Greg, from a time before I was up here, but writing you an opposition email saying you shouldn't let these folks withdraw it. They've gone too far. Make them live with the decision that they've made. You're saying that was a different
That was different because it's zoning and it's
request.
county board.
Okay. That's hard.
We're still in discussion. We have a motion on the floor.
Oh,
And a
can I
second.
ask a question
Yep.
about that? So, Attorney Kreiser, what would be the benefit?
The benefit of
I
it?
don't understand.
Not doing that just means that there's no final decision on it. It's just dismissed.
So then he can come back
The
again.
record's still there. He can still come back in 6 months. Any decision this body makes can be overruled at any given time, 6 months later. Our ordinance just prohibits him from refiling within 6 months. He could come back. Minnesota law, the case law coming down from the Minnesota Supreme Court actually states that if the community doesn't like a zoning decision that a body makes, we have elections every 2 years. And this body could change. And this body changes to reflect the needs and concerns of the community. And so we're not going to prohibit someone indefinitely from not being able to come back. So the case law out there is that he has the right to apply again in 6 months.
That is if he withdraws.
If he gets a denial,
He gets it,
a formal denial finding,
or if he withdraws.
if he would, yes.
If he
No,
withdraws,
if he withdraws, he can apply next month.
Oh,
Then there's not a decision. It is, if there is a denial, you must wait 6 months before reapplying for an interim use or a conditional use on that same property.
okay.
I guess the other question that I have is whether, I know we got a couple commissioners absent tonight. We're 5 out of 7, we're a quorum. I forget if Sandy was on the gravel task force. I think she was.
Yep.
There's some wisdom that comes from somebody who was on the gravel task force being part of the decision. She's missed this part of the deliberation. She was present for all the public hearing. I know there's no guarantee she'd make the next meeting, but I at least want to have the discussion about whether Sandy's voice is one that we should be waiting to hear from, not knowing what it would be, but, and we typically don't wait. We have a quorum, we make decisions, we move on. But this is our first gravel pit after a new ordinance passed by the task force that she was a part of.
Did you have some, Ken?
No, I was just going to comment to Commissioner Mulberg that it is not unprecedented to wait on a momentous decision until we had all members up here, or more than a quorum. So, but that's been done before, and I recall one very contentious issue where someone called. We had a quorum that night, but someone called, let's make this decision next month. But, you know, the fact is, the reality is, we have a quorum here. The public have spoken. The public's probably as sick of this as I am. And I think we should just decide tonight what we decide. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything else? Yeah. I guess I will open it up to MBE. Do you want us to vote and go forward? I'll give you that opportunity to have a decision, or do you want to dismiss without precedence? Prejudice?
Mr. Chair, maybe we give them the opportunity to talk with council.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a fair thing. We'd usually afford that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We can have a 5-minute chairman's break, the chairman would like.
We'll give you a 5-10-minute chairman's break. When you're ready, let me know.
It's not her bathroom, it's everybody's bathroom.
Oh, Kreiser
Okay,
still.
whenever Greg gets back, then we'll be ready to go. Great. We'll call a meeting back to order now, and I guess I'll ask the question again, would the applicant like to withdraw, or would he like us to proceed with the vote?
Take your vote.
Proceed with the vote, okay? We have a motion on the floor to send it on for council for denial and continue until next month. Can I have a second? Is there any other discussion? Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of sending it for findings signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same way.
Aye.
Motion passes, and we will send it on to council.
I said,
Jeannie said yes, aye. Yes, Dan Bravender, nay. All right. Is there anything else we need to look at tonight, Barry?
Not for items, Mr. Chairman. It just should be noted that this isn't the final decision. The board will review the findings on the February 8th meeting and vote on those findings at that time.
Okay. If there's nothing else to come before the board, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, well, site inspection, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, we have to
That
do a
was
site
the other
inspection.
thing, I guess.
Okay, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Time for a site inspection before the next
what do
meeting.
we get, 2 of them?
We have 2 items, yes. I did a quick calculation. We have about 64 miles to cover.
Opposite ends of the county.
We're done? Yeah, we're done. You can leave.
Hang on a minute.
So we're looking for a date and a time to meet. We'll set which items and where we go first, once I get a date and time.
Until February 8th. All right, what do we have open?
I have nothing open.
You have nothing open?
I'm out of town till the 1st, and then it looks like the 5th I have meetings. Do you guys like to do them in the morning, right?
Preferably 6th, 7th of February?
We could do the 5th. We could do the 5th if it was later, like 10.
You.
Let's start. Or at 9. If we left here at 9, could we do that on the 5th?
20.
Does that work?
No, there again, you guys
Yeah, no,
discuss a date, time, doesn't have to be Mondays, it can be,
Fifth
rough,
is okay
any
with
day
me.
but Tuesdays
along here. Fifth
Yep.
are potentials for
Yeah, and
me.
I can't do Tuesday. I
Dan,
could do
5th of
I can't either.
February?
Huh?
Pat, any chance?
As of right now, February 5th in the morning,
Yep, 9 o'clock.
I think would work. I would propose we hit up the dirt alteration one first. I'm being selfish because
Yeah.
at some point, I think on the 5th, I will be at the airport flying out for a day. And I don't think I will be going to Cokato Township for that one.
Okay.
But if it works better to go to Cokato first, of course I will.
So we would go to Dell.
You can circle around and do.
There's no
Oh,
good
no,
way.
then you're
there-
gonna hit the.
Yeah, it's a big circle, so whether I go west to east or east to west doesn't matter.
suppose that's way
That way
worse
you
for
end at
Ravender,
home.
It doesn't make any difference.
Doesn't
Yeah,
make
for
any.
you.
I'm gonna drive
Drive
either
yourself,
way,
yeah.
Yeah,
because they're
so
all on the south
can-
end.
Yep.
Hit the dirt first, and then he can hit
The one that you're most
February
concerned
5th
about
at
is
what
the
time?
the
February 5th at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
The one that I
track.
think
February
is worth
10th,
seeing.
February 5th.
5th, February 5th at 9 o'clock,
Me too.
okay?
Leave at
February
9?
5th At 9 o'clock, meeting here,
Yes, yes.
okay?
Which would
And
put
going to
us
see
down
the
there,
track.
for those of us that'll meet
Either way, don't wait.
down
for
there
me.
would be what, 9:20?
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it's 16.7 miles.
9:15 it is.
9:15 to 9:20, but if we leave on time, it'll be 9:15, 9:20. So, well, if you're not gonna come, maybe let Barry know, so we don't wait for you, just in case you're a little bit late. Anything else then, Barry? Should be it?
I don't
Site inspection.
believe, Cheryl, we don't have anything else, do we?
Okay,
Do I
you
have
send me an invite for that too?
Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made and seconded, we're done, thank you.
Yep, thank you guys.